in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
You are not content with the stories. Slice lives come. Be my victim.
And through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror, there's an enormous amount of sort of abattoiral excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Good evening, folks. How are we all doing in this 52nd episode of Double Feature Horror Show, where we are covering the, I think, unambiguously most requested film that we've had so far?
I hope it's more than 50 seconds.
Oh, God. That reminds me of a certain joke about 21-year-olds. But this is a family-friendly stream, so we're not telling that joke.
Worse.
We're all very respectful of Susan's whims here, every time. Why
Why am I here then?
Oh, so I can disavow comments I want to say, obviously.
I'm not. I'm pretty on topic when it comes to these topics. Anyway, I'll stop derailing.
No, you're absolutely grand. You're absolutely fine. And well, folks,
these streams have never been on the rails, Scrump. You ain't got to worry about that, mate.
Yeah, I tell you, absolute nightmare doing the screen caps for this. I really want to show off all the glory of the thing. And Rob, by the way, Rob Bottin, not Bottin.
Oh, I thought it was Bottin. Bottin.
Yeah, so
Bottin.
Exactly, I've been saying Bottin for ages, but no, it's fancier. He's a Bottin.
It's like Mrs. Bouquet.
Exactly. He's a classy
Bottin.
kind of guy.
I need that, but I've seen a lot of videos about these effects because he's quite famous.
He is a very interesting guy.
Yes, him and I think the supervisor Rick Baker as well.
Yes, he was working with. I mean, this is okay. So he's about early 60s right now, Rob. So just to catch you all up, folks, we're talking about Rob Bottin, aka Rob Bottin. When he's down south, who was the special effects supervisor for this film and borderline one-man band. I mean, he led a crew of 40 people apparently, and they did have to sub in Stan Winston and his crew for one of the legendary scenes, the kennel scene. But otherwise, this is some of the most memorable moments are Rob Bottin, a 22-year-old working 7 days a week for about a year and 2 months and doing late nights as well. Absolute Chad.
He's somebody who was quite popular afterwards for doing special effects too. He did the special effects in RoboCop and Total Recall as well. The very famous swelling head in Total Recall.
Nice.
Yes. It's such an iconic but also goofy scene.
I can't get enough of it though. It's fantastic. You just go along with it, and you can see like the echoes of that scene in this film, can't you? Like especially during the blood test when here's going to be a recurring issue. I basically remember none of the characters' names. Maybe about half of them I'm sure on. But it's kind of dodgy for everyone else.
Well, we can call one of them President Obama.
Oh, do you see it? I don't know. Was that Knowles?
Well, no. It's just because what was his name? The one who survived at the end, the black dude. He's the voice for the president in Rick and Morty.
Is
So
he?
we'll just call him Obama.
Charles.
Yeah.
Keith David. What
Keith
an
David,
absolute...
yeah.
He does have the voice, though, doesn't he?
Oh, it's a brilliant voice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? Before... I want to say kudos on the Rick Baker knowledge. Just while we're praising Rob Bottin, we will... I just want to stick on this. Like, this thing amazed me. I was impressed with Tom Savini, who basically started working when he was about 14 on special effects professionally. In a fairly interesting story. Same thing with Rob Bottin. Same thing. He wrote to, I think he did write directly to Rick Baker, sending him some drawings of schematics he had in mind. Got recruited, 14.
So what you're saying is child labour. Bring it back.
Absolutely glorious child labour. Frankly, folks, if you enjoyed The Thing, you sign up for those child labour laws, as in endorsing them in full. Think what you're missing out on if you don't. And
on that note,
sorry. What a weird tangent to go on. Well, I did.
It's really derailed.
The Rob Bottin love is strong. What can I say? But before we go further into this, I do want to introduce our guest. First time here. Well, actually, first off, well, hold on. First, regular panel intro. How are you doing, Haryan?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Cheers.
What up, my drillers? Hey now, etc.
Kept hanging there, man.
Yeah.
So efficient. And that crown guy, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. What up, my shillers? It's great to see
and...
so many familiar faces in the chat tonight.
Yes. Hello, chat. I know there are some fans in here. I know lots of you are people who've said, can we do the thing? Can we do... I've seen the request for Event Horizon. Yes, Event Horizon is... The ones we get requested most often are Event Horizon, Burnt Offerings, this, and... What's the other one everyone asked us to do? Why can I not remember?
I remember House of a Thousand Corpses used to be recommended.
Yes, we took care of that. I'm not sure if that was a troll, but there were genuine House of a Thousand Corpses fans.
Wow.
Good for them.
I find
Part of me wants to say a lot of people would ask for Sallow, but I don't think your audience is that is like that.
It's a nice try, lads. We will not be doing
I'd rather
Sallow.
watch Human Centipede.
There is a film about some people in space.
About that. We will get... Yes, Pumpkinhead. Thank you. Yes, Pumpkinhead's come up a fair amount. But before we get into that, so we also have a first-time guest on here. Hello, Scrump.
Hey, how you guys? It's your boy Scrump. No, how are you guys? I'm glad to be on for The Thing. I know this was one of the most requested ones, and it's something I'm relatively knowledgeable on. I don't tend to be too deep diving with films. I'm not somebody who does the 11-hour film podcasts. But I do actually know quite a bit about the 1982 version of The Thing, being as it is a John Carpenter classic. So I'm quite glad to be here and quite eager to get into it. Although we have got some interesting related tangents that don't involve child labour that I'm also looking forward to. So it should be a good episode.
I thought for a second you were going to disavow us then, Scrump. Found your line.
We do have to, we can't do the 11 hours. We've got strict timekeeping requirements here on the stream. Otherwise, we end up in all sorts of trouble from our benevolent overlady who keeps us all in check. I made this ages ago. Finally, I get to be relevant with it. Yep, Super Nanny is keeping us in check. We will be over with by 10:30, I believe. That's what we're aiming for, because we're an efficient stream here. We don't go... We're professionals now, and we certainly wouldn't spend like 8 minutes at the start discussing Rob Bottin. So
he's relevant, though.
He's super relevant. Are you a bit of a John Carpenter fanboy then, Scrump?
Not really a fanboy. I think he's an interesting filmmaker There's precious few filmmakers who kind of break the mold as much as he does. He's also made about 50% absolute guff as well. There is some really, really terrible John Carpenter films, but they're terrible in quite interesting ways.
Yeah, I find with him pacing is an interesting one. Like you gotta keep him on track, otherwise he meanders. Like Prince of Darkness is very much the one for that. But,
well, there's certain films of his that feel a little bit cynical, like Escape from LA and Vampires, especially his late '90s stuff. It's very okay. You want a film, you want a sequel. Here you go. It's just Vampires, especially, is famously poor, and that was a Sony picture, if I remember correctly.
It was a big deal, but then they stiffed him on the budget at the last minute, which I think possibly informed a certain amount of the frustration coming through the movie.
Yeah, it feels like a film that was made sarcastically. It's the best way I can describe Vampires.
Yeah, I've heard that say. Well, people are already saying Escape from LA as a sort of sarcastic version of Escape from New York. I can see it. And Halloween 2, he did absolutely phone in.
Am I right in thinking that's the James Woods film that we've covered that before? Haven't
Yeah,
we?
yeah. Vampires,
yes.
we did.
Yeah.
Extreme schlock.
Absolutely.
With some inspired moments, but lots of oddities in it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to. I think after this I might go back and listen back to that stream, because that was that was quite a film. That
I found a fair amount to love in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Possibly a bit more. I don't know, generous, a little biased towards the horror. It's possible. You may accuse me of lax standards. It's entirely possible. I mean, we are eventually going to cover the Human Centipede, so
no.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Look, we've built up your tolerance for it, Haryan. You'll be fine now.
I'm gonna have a sick bucket next to me the whole film.
Just
I'll let you know how full it
prep
gets.
Prep yourself up by watching the South Park take on
I've seen this. I've seen the Human Centipede. That's why I know how bad it is.
Watch it again.
Oh no. It's a trilogy as well.
Kyle.
I did my limits. I got to part 2, and that was just, I guess, another sarcastic movie. It was very much openly taking the mick, and like a parody of art house. It's extremely weird. The director cameos as himself, as a kind of ignored genius.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Many things were being tried in that movie. Many things. But
why did anyone watch Human Centipede 2?
It's the classic thing. These are horror movies. You can make them extremely cheaply, and it's very easy to make a profit. So when one does, people immediately say, "Yo, give me a sequel." It's a standard thing.
You've got to think about how low the budgets are on some of these, though.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Dear. Also, I do see you guys in the chat talking about Ghosts of Mars. That is John Carpenter's new metal film, essentially.
I have not tried Ghosts of Mars, I'm afraid.
Imagine if John Carpenter was somehow crossbred with both the 90s Total Recall and a Limp Bizkit and Ice-T video. It's like rap rock John Carpenter. It's very strange.
Dude, it's got Ice Cube in it.
Oh.
Yes, it's very strange.
Is that, and that's Jason Statham as well, isn't it?
Oh.
I believe it is, yes. That's like relatively early Statham.
He's still got a full mop of hair on the top of his head.
Oh, crikey.
Oh my god, he had hair?
That's weird.
Apparently
That's like
so.
that's like when you see Patrick Stewart with hair and I, Claudius.
Whoa, whoa,
It's-
whoa. Hold
Oh,
on, what?
yeah. I've
Very,
seen
very
that one.
confusing times, but we probably have a fair amount to say on the thing, so I'll move this along and we'll quickly do our topic. We're not going to be on it very long, but I just thought it was interesting as sort of a recommendation for y'all. If you've been watching these a while, then you've clearly got a taste for horror, and particularly horror of the 80s. You may have noticed that as much as I try, I have a certain bias for covering sort of late 70s to mid 90s horror. That's where I tend to find myself going over and over again. I try and break us out of that rut, but that is my comfort zone. That's where I go to over and over again for suggestions.
Well, that's really the horror era. It's like covering big screen musicals and not covering like the 40s and 50s. Unfortunately, the genre kind of dies a bit of a death after that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it. I mean, many reasons for that, but the reason I thought I'd cover this, In Search of Darkness, is a documentary about the 80s horror era. It was a crowd-funded doc, trying to be quite exhaustive. And when I saw it advertised on Kickstarter, I thought, okay, this sounds like my sort of thing. They're doing a deep dive into 80s horror. They're interviewing the original, not just the original actors, but they interviewed the directors. They interviewed the special effects people. And I thought, okay, that sounds really promising. I'm pretty darn intrigued about that. They had a really good teaser for it. So I pitched in. I backed this, and many months later, got myself a shiny little Blu-ray with 4.5 hours of 80s horror documentary on it. And
nice.
Yes. I was hyped. I was excited. They've actually made 2 more of these. Can you believe? 2 more In Search of Darknesses, and they've done a follow-up called In Search of Starlight about 80s sci-fi. And I
didn't know that second part. Oh.
Yeah. And I thought this might be something that's a bit of interest to you. And this is a pro and a con. For you guys, it's all a pro in that this thing got leaked. It is available online in many numbers of places. And it's also on Shudder and Amazon Prime. I think it was actually free on Prime for a while, but don't quote me on that.
It was. I actually saw it. I've seen it twice, and I saw it the second time on Prime.
Yeah. I am only mildly miffed because I don't know. Do I have any right to be annoyed about this? Like, I backed it. I got my Blu-ray. I saw it before other people, but I don't know. It kind of bugged me that it came out free and was then just on streaming services. I sort of thought, gosh darn it, where's my exclusivity? They just wanted to sell it to Amazon, darn it.
You got your Blu-ray.
That's it. That's what you get for having faith in people.
Mixed opinion on the panel. Yes. And, well, as you've seen it twice yourself, Scrump, would you like to just sort of share a few thoughts on it?
I thought it was very exhaustive and quite well structured. As you said, 4.5 hours of, I think that's the Blu-ray there. I think the core thing that was on Amazon wasn't 4.5 hours itself. I'm not entirely sure. There might have been a slightly edited version there. But it does do what it says in the tin. It has got some very good interviews. Some good detail, a lot of stuff that I've seen in bits and pieces other places, but I don't think it's ever all been put together like that. So I thought it was quite worthwhile. It's also, a lot of these can be very padded. I thought, even though it's quite long, they actually keep padding to a minimum because they do cover quite a range of topics and quite a range of films. I'd definitely recommend it to people if you're at all into horror. I remember, I can't remember the name of it though. There was a. It's probably very difficult to find online right now, but there was a Mark Gatiss, who was
Yes.
Sherlock's brother. He did a
Yeah, yeah.
series about horror on BBC4. I can't remember what it was called though.
Clive Barker did the A to Z of A to Z of horror. I think he
Yes.
did. Yeah, I know the one you mean. He did. Was it 2 parts, and they gave him a 3rd part to go into Europe and talk about the giallo scene and all the Euro horrors, right?
It's just called The History of Horror with Mark Gatiss. It's, God, that was 12 years ago. Getting old. But it was very well done. Because when I remember when I saw him on Sherlock, I was like, "That's the History of Horror guy," because I only knew him from that obscure like BBC4 documentary. Everyone else thinks he's Sherlock's brother, and I'm like, "No, he did History of Horror, and it was really good."
Yeah, that would probably be my recommendation a bit more. I sort of had a problem with this in that I really had to watch it in stints because I find the structure a bit of a difficulty. Like, it really makes sense, but the way they do it is they go through literally chronologically and just cover the films released that year. So it can be a bit stoppy-starty and just switching. And some of the films you do get very quick coverage of. And
honestly, it feels more like a condensed miniseries.
Yeah, it felt a bit exhausting for me, but then possibly I've got the longer version on the Blu-ray. Just it was just sort of one long thing, and I felt myself wondering, like, oh gosh, when do I stop? I'll stop at the end of the next year, basically. But yeah, I found it a bit hard to sort of follow any kind of thread in it, which is sort of a minor P from me, but I did absolutely love all the people that they were talking to, that they were going through, people who are very much involved in it and able to share a lot of the backstory. So it had that tough balance to strike where it couldn't be absolutely exhaustive on any one film, but it gave you a nice amount on pretty much of everything. And if you weren't too interested in a film, it didn't keep you in it too long. But the main thing I took away from it was that it was just really good for recommendations and highlighting things that you've possibly overlooked or never heard of. Like the one it flagged for me was Fade to Black, which I thought, oh, never heard of it in my life. That looks amazing.
Oh yeah, I think Fade to Black I had heard of because I'm gonna sound like such what's it called? My brain's gone. He used to be like with Doug Walker and all that. Does a lot of film reviews. Does a lot of obscure horror films. Cinema Snob, that's it. I think he covered quite a few of the films in some of the. He's one of the only people to come out of the whole that guy with the glasses thing unscathed. As far as I know, Cinema Snob isn't a bad person. But yeah, it is. I think I'd actually recommend it for non-horror fans. Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing I could say, because I didn't live through the 80s. I was born in 91. So it really does just give you the idea of how this progressed, how it came out, how like the landscape was for cinema, like horror cinema in the 80s. Because if you didn't live through that period, you don't know what it was like, because it's very different than what it is now. We have like the PG-13 horror scourge still going on, essentially.
Yes. Oh, I thought it had come away, but we seem to be back to it. I mean, usually I just thought that because horror films are low budget, they don't mind making them R-rated and really sort of throwing some lovely claret around. But the move to get a PG-13 horror, which comes out with a sort of weird vibe for a UK release, it's really awkward. They do seem to be doing it again. I kind of blame the Conjuring series for that.
Yeah, because we have the Saving Grace, which is the 15 rating. which has saved many, because we used to get different cuts here in the UK. We don't actually do that anymore, I don't think. I think we just get whatever cut the studio puts out for the US rating. But I remember there used to be, right up until the 90s, what the Americans would refer to as the Euro cuts, because we'd get Euro cuts of all kinds of artsy films. And the Americans got very, very different cuts of a lot of European cinema in general. Although we did sometimes get bigger cuts of US films as well. And I don't think that's a thing that really happens anymore. So,
yeah, my memory of that is the Euro cut would typically have a lot more nudity as a broad generalization, but also just some extra scene building that the general thought was American audiences don't want to stick around for it.
The American cutting throughout the 70s and 80s was very focused on the 90-minute film.
Oh, yes. Well, something I realized recently, and I have not rectified this, I believe the American cut of The Shining is 25 minutes longer than the Euro cut. This astonishes me. Like, how is that happening? How is there an extra 25 minutes of The Shining that I haven't seen? Is this news to people?
Yeah, that's news to me. But then again, like I'm one of those guys that still hasn't seen the film in any capacity, which I know needs to be put right.
I can't believe you've not seen a film. What the hell?
I know, right?
What is wrong with you?
Well,
oh dear.
I remember that. There's a few. I think some of it is to do with. There's quite a famous, like, very long helicopter shot in that film that got reused on the studio-imposed ending of Blade Runner. Weirdly enough, if any of you know about the Blade Runner happy ending, they used a helicopter shot, I think, originally from The Shining. I'm going off my brain, like my half-empty brain gas right now, but I think that might be something to do with it.
Yeah, I can wrong, believe
chat.
it.
Chat, help.
I know they mess with it. Chat, we're looking for you for validation. The other thing we're looking to you for, chat, is smashing the like button. How do we got half an hour in and we didn't do it? We got a shill, guys. We're on YouTube. Come on.
We usually do it before we start the film analysis anyway. It's fine. But yeah, you got to flamethrower that like button. Otherwise, it could come back and haunt your family. You know, think about that.
Fantastic.
You don't want a like button to do that.
Yes, sir. Mac wants the like button. Mac wants the what?
Excellent. Yes, you've got to just really get your fingers stuck into your friend's face, take them over, and convert them to subscribers to this channel. That's what you need to do.
You see that subscribe button, right? It's heart stops. You get the defibrillator, right? You put those defibrillators right on its chest and get your arms bitten off, and that's how you subscribe to the channel.
Fantastic. Family friendly. Susan approved. She loves this. Let's go. All right. Well, that's a quick recommendation of In Search of Darkness. I'd say it's worth it. It might be something you watch in. Now that I found out that the streaming version is considerably shorter, you might not need to watch it just in bursts. But I found it easier to take in that way, and probably the best thing you can do with it is get lots of recommendations. It's really good because there's so many 80s horrors. It's really good for just giving you that taste of whether you'd be interested in something or not.
Yes.
All right, groovy.
The stream. I don't think the stream version is actually shorter. I think the version I saw on Amazon Video when it was free was actually put into 2 parts. So I'm vaguely remembering.
Oh, Scrump, what are you doing, my lad?
What did I do?
Oh no!
I didn't. That's my alter ego, El Scrumpo. He's an evil outlaw.
The bane of bean mouths everywhere. Okay, thanks. Okay. Well, shall we get right into our chosen topic tonight? John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982.
Hooray.
Yes.
Yay, finally, only 30 minutes in, guys. Not
Or
bad.
as I call it, Among Us.
Oh,
I don't call it that at all.
I can actually see the number of watches dropping after that joke.
It wasn't very good, I know.
Hold off. Well, yes, some interesting history to this one. I'm sure we're going to drop in more. And Scrump, as you say, you know a bunch about this. This is super welcome. Little interesting in that it's a bit of a troubled production, from what I gather. They were originally hoping that this would be a Tobe Hooper production. Tobe Hooper being super hot, coming off Texas Chainsaw Massacre, very much in demand. And so they gave him script duties to essentially launch the project. And he produced a very different film to what the studio wanted. His idea was very Moby Dick inspired. The word swashbuckling was involved. It was a very different tone. So the studio, after 2 rounds, did not go with Tobe Hooper, and they brought John Carpenter on. And they were quite reluctant to give him the money that they needed to make this happen. The effects budget, in particular, they gave it the usual sort of chump change to just make a standard monster movie, and that is very much not what John Carpenter wanted to make. I think he was extremely determined that his version of The Thing would not be like a regular horror movie. You would not be scared of a man in a monster suit. In fact, I think he makes a lot of effort throughout this movie to avoid the horror movie tropes. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I'd say so. To a degree.
Yeah, there's nothing I can point to that's like, oh, they did the movie thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I point out a really obvious one is the casting. So, in a year in which we were already on our 3rd Friday the 13th movie, your cast of characters aren't young, fit, betitted teens. They're a bunch of kind of older, schlubby dudes. Very believable as the kind of guys who would be working in the Arctic station.
Yeah,
who do you think would be there? You know, they're just regular guys.
Yeah,
they unironically look like geologists.
Yeah, yes,
But they do. Yes.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. These are clever people, but also, how can I say, they're not like Hollywood big brain archetypes. They're not like the screenwriters self-insert, where the massive big brain wins the day.
They're very much what you'd expect for the crew of like an oil rig. They're a bunch of technical but also practical people, which makes the film a lot more grounded. A quick note while we're doing you can get the first scene of the film up there. This film actually has a relatively very basic but iconic soundtrack of the dun 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 dun.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if you are aware that this film was actually scored and it wasn't used. This film was scored by Ennio Morricone, who was a very kind of widespread and prolific Italian composer for a lot of Italian cinema. Done a lot of very famous Italian cinema stuff, and he did a semi-electronic score that was kind of 2/3 finished because, like I said, it was a production. Well, like you said, sorry, it was a production before Carpenter was involved, and it's actually pretty good. But I think he decided to use a couple of the bits of that in his music, but he basically recomposed it into a minimalist John Carpenter score, which with the very bleak world of the thing was, I think, a very good move. Although I quite like Ennio's version.
Yeah, this really caught me out because I just thought it was John Carpenter again, but I'm almost wondering, like, given the timing of this, Carpenter had not made that many films at this point. I'm kind of wondering, are the later John Carpenter synth scores taking a massive lead off Ennio Morricone in this.
I wouldn't say so. John Carpenter definitely has his own style, but there might be bits and pieces there. Like I said, I think he did almost completely rescore the film. I'm not quite sure if there are any remnants left in it. He is a proper legend, though, yes. But it's an interesting fact that the thing is actually relatively famous for being one of John Carpenter's, I think, one of his first full scores. I'm not entirely sure because his music, he does more of the music stuff now. But kind of back then, it was a little bit unusual for a film to have this kind of soundtrack, because this is 1982. This is like pre a lot of the wave of synth, especially in the US. It's more of a Euro thing at this point. Kraftwerk was only really 3 years ago, kind of in the UK. Late 70s, so it's relatively daring for a film to have a completely synthesized score at this point, you know, in the early 80s. So that also might contribute to one of the reasons why this film failed, because it's one of those films that was possibly too far ahead of its time.
Well, yeah, this is not a John Williams score. Oh, and one thing I thought I'd mention now, because we couldn't get away without mentioning it. This is, of course, International Women's Day, and entirely by accident, not in this film. Somehow we managed to pick a film that wins the John D. No Women Award. We did it.
There are no women at the North Pole because they would get the North Pole.
This is Antarctica. This is South Pole, actually.
You've been waiting to do that, haven't you, Haryan?
Well, I was trying to work out whether they're at the North or South Pole. Because if they're in the North Pole, I'd understand why they have so many shotguns. But they're in the South Pole, so now I don't know why they've got so many shotguns.
And dynamite. Don't forget the dynamite.
The Norwegians.
Yeah,
what can I say?
Dynamite. Well, it's the Americans that had the shotguns. The Norwegians had G3 military snipers, and I'm like, what? Why?
The militarization of the South Pole is a real thing, so.
Well,
yeah. So pure accident that this happened, but I did find it quite funny with the timing. Look, it's International Women's Day. It's this or teeth, guys. You got off lightly. We are going to do that one day.
Oh, for God's sake!
Mother's Day.
We'll do that, and then we'll do the Human Centipede. We'll do them back to back for Harry, just for you, mate, just for you.
So what I wanted to pick up on this on the starter, I love this film. I really love this film. I have a slight niggle with this opening. I don't like the UFO. Am I alone in this?
From what I hear, the opening was added later. From what people can tell, I think this might be a studio thing, that people might be confused, because this is very, very separate from the rest of the film. And I think it was added as an intro so that people wouldn't be too, oh, this is a sci-fi film that has an alien in it. This is what it feels like. It feels like a kind of a rushed edition that thinks the audience is stupid. I agree with you, and I think it was actually added later.
Yeah, I'm not saying John Carpenter wouldn't put it in, because he's not ashamed to put in quite, how can I say, sledgehammer elements. Like Assault on Precinct 13 is very on the nose and unsubtle to get the scenario started. But then it does that and then seems to get into what John Carpenter's more interested in. This could feel a bit like that, but it's just... It really doesn't gel with the rest of the movie, which really trades on you being unsure of things, being uncertain, having a sort of really murky palette. So yeah, I could totally believe that the studio just put this in.
I mean, personally, it didn't bother me that much.
I mean, I forgot about it. Because then we get to... No, because it is a bit jarring, though, that you go from this to then a couple of Norwegians trying to shoot a dog.
I would have loved to just start with the Norwegians.
Yeah.
Just that lovely vista, and then a dog, and then Norwegians are shooting it, and be like, "What the heck is going on?"
Yeah,
Those
they
damn
hold open,
Swedes.
if you'll excuse the pun.
Wait. This kind of reminds. Do you guys know Dark City from 1997?
Nah.
No.
Okay. Chat. Are you aware of Dark City? Some of you, someone in there is going to have seen it. So that was a really underrated film, just pre-Matrix, predicted a lot of the Matrix stuff. Totally underrated. And the studio thought, this is far too smart. We have to wreck this. And so they put on a massive, just the lazy. What's the laziest thing you could do to clue the audience in?
Was there a giant text crawl?
Nailed it. Almost a. It was a imposed narration from, I believe, from a minor cast character that just explained the entire plot of the movie. Something that is a lovely mystery that gets slowly unrolled over the first hour. They're just like,
oh no,
nah, here's the big thing.
I'm just looking at some of the screenshots on this. Dark City looks very much like Matrix and Hellraiser had a baby.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's
interesting.
A bit glorious. It's kind of one where horror started sort of leaking into the genre, you know? Oh, well, hey. Okay, people know Dark City. Well done, guys. Also, Hello Tale feature. Good to see you. Yeah. Okay, yes, exactly, Mergoot. Noir voiceover. Just really make sure no one gets lost. Yes. Studios will do this to you, and you already brought up the Blade Runner ending, so we wouldn't be too surprised. But
Noir voiceover.
It's sort of an interesting thing. I don't know how you'd like to get into it. Do you just want to start with the opening and rock on?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The first 5 minutes is basically chasing a dog. And you're kind of wondering why, and then you start meeting the American station workers. You got Mac on his own playing chess with whiskey. The chessboard completely changes between both shots, and then it's not actually a mate. It's a completely different board. Like, yeah, I did pause it to check, and then in the second position there's no mate in one, but it's like, oh, mate in one. But they're nitpicks, but I wanted to point it out because I did check on my own. I remade the boards on my own chess program.
Wow.
Just to check.
Wow.
Bobby Fischer would be.
I had time.
Bobby
that is the
Fischer.
least consequential part of this film.
Exactly.
I know,
it's
right?
Mostly just to show that the character has a lot of time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Bobby Fischer would be well proud of you, mate.
I believe the line here is "you cheeky bitch."
Yeah.
I think it says cheating, bitch. But
yeah, right.
Well, hang on. I mean, for all the fun that's in there, I mean, there's a deeper theme to it. By the way, this is my Chloe limbers up and does a massive reach section of the stream. It's classic character work. R.J. McCready finds himself in an impossible situation and just says F it and destroys the thing.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Harry and your dad's calling you autistic in the chat, mate.
Well, he's right.
No, he's not wrong. Autistic. That's right. When it's funny because when you said to us, "Oh, this chess bit's a bit tismy," and it's like, I can see why now because you went full on.
I can actually sympathise with Harry in here because you are known for the bullet autism, but there is a thing of weirdly films love to include chess and never get it right, and chess is kind of the code word for clever person doing a thing.
Oh,
but it's frequently completely wrong, and I don't know why this is.
It sometimes is. In the film that did it best that I can think off the top of my head is Sherlock. The one with Moriarty.
Oh, God.
They actually based that off a real chess game, so it worked.
Andrew, we have basically only just started the film. You grand, man. You grand.
Well, we did a mini review of From Darkness, didn't we?
Yeah, In Search of Darkness. Yes,
Sorry,
I try and keep. It's cool, man. It's cool. I keep them a bit separate, but it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's a great opening. I think just for confusing the heck out of you, getting everyone together and giving you that sort of feel of MacReady. But
yeah, he's a bit of a loner and has, as you say, a lot of time on his hands, and he likes his drink, which I can appreciate. And then the Norwegian blows himself up. Was a bit like, how has he done that? But whatever. And then
that bit was comical.
Yeah, and then the other Norwegian with the guns shouting in Norwegian. It's like, well, they're obviously not going to understand you, but he shoots them anyway. I mean, why can't Norwegians shoot? I base that entirely on this film. Like,
I think they were mainly shaking from being assaulted by the thing. They looked very wild.
That's true. Yeah. So he ends up getting shot in the back of the head by the station commander, who has his own revolver. But yeah, it does get you wondering why, the Norwegians hate dogs.
Do Norwegians hate dogs? Find out.
Exactly. Because he shoots one of them and then just walks past them all. It is really weird to watch, but that is the point of it. It's like, why? It's the setup of the mystery.
It's a fantastic, if blatant setup. It'll do.
Yeah.
It gets you wondering. And kicks things off in motion. I'm kind of impressed with how patient this film is until it doesn't want to be.
Yes.
I kind of love that. So much stuff is laid down. Murgy, you might be interested. One of the reviewers for this film, and the critics did not like this. They savaged it. They didn't get it. One of them memorably called it a really bloody advert for J&B.
Aw.
Not saying it didn't work, I fancy one.
Just goes to show that critics know nothing.
It did make me want a whiskey, I'll be honest.
Yes.
Same here, and I don't even drink. I was like, oh, what is that?
You know what? I'm going to have a whiskey, I think.
Oh, you bastard.
Oh,
God damn it, now I want one.
All right. Well, while the rocks are being decorated with a fine dram,
hey.
I wanted to point out something I absolutely loved. It's a fair bit later on when they're working out what's going on. But as part of the really cool setup and giving you an idea of what's going on, the crew are kind of doing their own thing, and you get a sense of them that they're not buddies. Some of them get on with each other, but there's a really kind of cheesy bit that ended up winning me over with Knowles, who I found out was classic movie casting. He was a stand-up comic.
The guy on skates.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the guy on skates. Yeah, he was a stand-up comic who is in to sort of provide a bit of comic relief. I don't think they really let him do that much. Like, this film is funny, but it's not with him, and it's funny in wonderfully weird, sarcastic moments.
Yes. The other thing to note is really the lack of too many named actors. There was Kurt Russell, obviously, and Keith David, and Wilford Brimley.
Yes.
Really, the rest of the cast are relatively anonymous, and that's kind of the point. Even in character, we're all having trouble remembering the name of the characters here.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I remember MacReady and Childs because that's who there is at the end, and Blair because of his okay, I'm okay now, I can come out with like a noose in the background.
But they say Blair so much.
Oh yeah,
they do say Blair.
You can't avoid it.
That sticks in my head.
Yeah,
so,
I'd like to. Yeah, I love that. I highlight that because one of the things that I found interesting that I was wondering if Haryan would find frustrating was how much it deliberately tries to confuse you. Like, this scene here kind of raises the point, like, just to give the scenario why I love this so much. You get a bit of Noel's character by the fact that, he's going around on his roller skates. He's a bit free living. He likes the weed, and he plays the song "Suspicion" nice and loud, annoying the sort of grumpy old scientists, which is kind of okay. We get some character detail, but that is also essentially a way for you to have the thing going up to infect its first person while the song "Glaring Superstition" writing on the walls is playing. It's that foreshadowing again. We love it.
I wouldn't say that's confusing. So.
No, it's but I'd say generally there's I think a deliberate effort to make it sort of hard to follow who is who. And certainly where people are. Would you agree with that, guys?
I did find that, yeah. I did find that it was hard to sort of track them, and
it was, but they kind of make it clear what happened to you. So it's kind of like, oh, you remember because when they're dissecting the dog thing later, and he's saying, oh, how long was this dog with you? It's like an hour. It's like, oh, it's this guy then here, because you do just see his shadow, and that could be one of about 4 people in the base. So
yes,
it makes it clear later.
The thing is, that's one of the things the film, you're right, it does do it deliberately, but the sense of confusion and their very natural dialogue in their arguments, because this film, one of the most overlooked things about this film is how natural all the dialogue is. There's a lot of people talking over each other, there's a lot of argumentation, there's a lot of people talking in the background. It's all very naturalistic filmmaking, which is great. There's very little of that done properly in horror films. Even to this day, it's almost like a predecessor to. It sounds weird, but like the good stuff about some of the found footage stuff, it has an authenticity to a lot of the conversations. There's a lot of live room audio. There's a lot of cast audio. Not a lot of it is ADR'd, so you get a sense of the space in there. And that is, I think, one of the things that gives the thing its mood. Is just the way the dialogue and the people sound. It sounds like people arguing about over who's an alien, who might have actually gone crazy. You don't know.
Yeah, it does genuinely feel chaotic in its approach, doesn't it? I know. I certainly agree with that. Definitely.
It really helps you buy in that. Yeah, these are the people who would be working at the station, and they don't spell it out for you. No one gives well, as you know, of course, being a geologist here, no one does that at any point, and I love it. But it's when someone points it out, and one of the big weaknesses of the 2011 sneaky prequel, aka Sneakquel, was that the casting was back to Hollywood casting. We had a female lead character, an actress I actually really like, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but no, she would not be at an Antarctic research station. Not happening.
Are you saying girls don't get it done?
Not in the South Pole, mate. Not in the South Pole.
They get other things done.
Maybe up there in the North Pole, mate, but not in the South.
Girls can do a lot of work on poles, but not the South one.
Nice.
Welcome. This is a progressive podcast and very family friendly.
Going back to the intro to take us way back. There's something I forgot to say. The intro is actually a spoiler because you see the ship like quite far into the film, or at least a little bit into the film. It's not really revealed what's going on until it hints at it with the ship. Well, they don't even know what that is. It could be an artifact. It could be a dome of some Antarctic civilization. And yeah, that reminds me that is why I hate the intro so much.
Yeah, do you know what? I know I said I didn't really mind it at the beginning, but sort of like the more I think about it now, I think it does sort of dampen these like scenes like this, what you're seeing on screen now, because if it just opened up with the helicopter chasing the dog down, shooting at him, obviously it starts chaotic and confusing, and that would have carried over until like when McGreedy goes over to the Norwegian base and starts sort of milling about with the other guys. It would have started to make sort of a bit more sense then. But Yeah, I'm going to change my mind actually on that. I think I didn't mind it when I was watching the film because I instantly got it like, oh, okay, it's an alien from outer space. Fair enough. I'll understand this bit, but I would have I would have preferred to have not known that beforehand and actually sort of catch up with the cast, sort of figure it out with them at the same time.
I have a theory as to why this failed at the time and why it was so successful later. Because this is a film that rewards repeat watching. This came out kind of before the height of the home video boom. The home video boom really was mid-80s. Early 80s, VCR was still very expensive, and films didn't come out in quite the same volume and weren't seen by quite as many people. So I think it is quite a difficult watch for a first time, again, especially in its time period. And obviously, as we know, film critics are the worst people to review films. Because
I will remind you that film critics such as Mark Commode watch 5 films in a day when they're reviewing. This does not sort of imply an ability to have a deep read or a considered read on a film. This is, how can I say, it's very good for having a first impression with a lot of context, but I don't think it's designed to get you enjoying a film like this. And you've raised a really interesting thing there, Scrump. This film has a lot of mysteries in it that repeat watching can solve.
Yes.
Now, ultimately, it is kind of pointless because I kind of love that nothing they find really helps them. That kind of appeals to me.
No. They are just fucked, and that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are mysteries in that are solved. Things it raises that if you pay attention, you can work out. That's an attention to detail that is quite wonderful. So an example, if you guys are interested, is do you remember something is made of the blood stores being opened and raided?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who trashed the blood stores? 2 guys have the key. Which one was it? The film moves on quite quickly, and ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like, the situation just evolves way too quickly. But there is an answer to it. If you're interested, the fantastic collative learning, Rob Agar, did a 16-minute exhaustive video into it, trying to break down that mystery.
Oh, wow.
Only 16 minutes.
It sounds like Haryan's kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
The YouTube video essay has arrived.
Needs to be longer.
Yeah. And there's the other one, like when RJ McCready's recording his thoughts down later. We didn't even say we were going to fully spoil the movie, did we?
Spoilers.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Yeah, we're spoiling the whole film. Sorry.
Yeah, spoilers for the 1982 film The Thing. Yes.
I always forget to do this, though. I always forget to do it.
It's all right. The audience have only had 40 years to watch it, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I get a feeling from how many of you requested it that you've seen The Thing. You know what you're getting into. When RJ McCready is recording his thoughts, he drops a clue. He just gets it out there and says he's found clothes and they were torn, so we know that when the thing takes on, it tears their clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is sort of dropping a clue that you could use to track when someone changes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter because they're all screwed, but you could use that information to go back and on a rewatch get important details. I love that it is there able to, as you say, reward repeat viewing and reward attention.
Yeah, that's really good. This film is actually quite big-brained when you think about it.
It isn't. Well, it isn't. It isn't. Because you mentioned the chess thing, but the thing is, it's a lot of it might be stuff that the filmmakers never even intended to be solved. That's the thing. You're right. A lot of it doesn't matter, and I kind of like that. It's a chaotic mystery.
Yeah.
It doesn't. flash in your face how a film like this now, even made in this kind of style, I reckon a filmmaker wouldn't be able to resist the urge to go like full Sherlock mind palace, since we mentioned it earlier, with having McCready be, seeing in his head everything that's happening, and he is who's raided the blood, and here's who this is, and isn't that amazing? Something I mentioned an hour ago has come back up. Aren't I smart? Ha ha ha. It's not a film that does that. It's a film that's very much concerned with getting you from A to B, from set piece to set piece, from effect to effect, from dialogue to dialogue, and entertaining you, and kind of mystifying you as it goes along, rather than dragging you into like the headcanon mystery of its creator as they go, which so much modern media does.
I can completely see that movie. Is that terrible? Like, I can picture the moment when there's a zoom in on the face and they're like, wait a second, but...
You literally see a light bulb.
Wait. None of them were around the room where the radio signals were being put out. They must be allergic to radio. And then they have to rush to get the ham radio and jig it up to the speakers, and I can just see them.
Written and directed by Rian Johnson.
Yes. I could see a bit of M. Night Shyamalan sort of situation in there. Just
M. Night Shyamalan's The Thing in the fog.
But there would be a thing where they work out some super science big brain thing and manage to brain their way out of it. Like, this is
science is awesome. Yeah.
It's the Hollywood screenwriter trope where the sort of the rejected nerd gets to big brain their way out of everything, and there's a brain solution.
Yeah, the one female character who has like plot armor. Oh god,
yes.
The thing now, as bad as the remake was, the thing made now would be so terrible. Even probably worse than that. The cash in when they're like, oh, we're gonna do practical effects. No, wait, they look like practical effects. We're replacing with CGI. Oh no, the CGI looks terrible. It'd be terrible. Like, imagine that Mind Palace Doctor Who version, M. Night Shyamalan version of the Thing, but there's like a pride flag in the back of one of the shots for no reason.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I can see it.
Yeah, the base would probably be covered in like BLM, rainbow flags.
The team would be very
There'd probably be a tranny,
very modern. Yeah.
Buckle up, buckaroos.
Oh, God. I can picture it. I mean, the beauty of the 2011 sequel was that they kind of had to doom everyone.
I was thinking Doom.
Yes.
Yeah, they were timed. Well, actually, you know what? You mentioned Doom. I know another reason you might be thinking Doom. Where is it?
I wanted to forget about that film.
Did you see, like... Okay,
yes.
So this thing, I thought the close-up was probably too much, but this has the two faces melted into each other. That had to have inspired Doom too.
Doom, definitely.
It
must have done.
I'm going to pull that up, guys. Forgive some typing. You guys carry on. I'm going to
Jamie,
get
pull that up.
Continues. No, the Thing again was a cult film for a while. It was very popular among creators and creatives. It's very popular, obviously, among special effects people and people who liked, horror props and gore. And it did very much influence the look of some later films. But yeah, in different media, I think it has been exponentially more influential in things like video games, where a lot of creators really grew up with the film. I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's a question while you're finding that. When did you guys first see The Thing? Like, how did you first encounter it?
When I watched it yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen it.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying to think. I think I came across it. Well, the film I watched properly yesterday. I'm sure I'd seen it before, but like I said to the guys beforehand, I remembered nothing of it. But I'm pretty sure it was the video game that introduced me to the whole genres, like just the thing itself. I'm pretty sure it was the video game that introduced it to me. Andrew actually makes a good raises a good one in chat. Someone's got to play the game.
I mean, now I'm just thinking of the thing I remember most about the game is Spoonie's review of it. Remember Spoonie? Remember that guy?
Oh, vaguely.
Wait, he used to make videos?
Well, all I remember is like the fuse box count, because of the amount of fuse boxes in that game. Man, that's a deep cut.
Oh,
I was gonna say the thing monster, you know, the Two-Face thing. It reminded me of a thing I've just put in the private chat from Soma.
Oh, good.
I got,
jeez, that's in your game?
Yeah, I got big. So you watched me play it. I got big. I know you haven't yet. I got big. So shut up. I've got big Soma vibes from this film. I wouldn't be surprised if they got inspired by it. But that kind of reminded me.
Oh,
of
this absolutely was influential on so many things, and of course it came out in the perfect time that it could do this. I mean, we didn't really get into the reasons, but we have an 80s horror boom partly because of the technology being available, the fact that you could, with some increasingly cheap latex and animatronics, make unbelievable effects that just were really not possible before, and a slightly more permissive attitude, allowing you to actually show them. I mean, there's some pretty gross stuff in the late 60s, but they really couldn't show much of it.
I still think The Thing holds up as one of the most like visceral horror films because the effects look amazing, but they are also. I remember I first saw it when I was like honestly like 10 or 11, and it didn't terrify me, but I was like, it is a little bit uncanny and gross. It's like watching surgery in some ways because some of it is so. It does trick your brain into thinking you're seeing something you're not, you know. And I remember both being kind of grossed out, but extremely impressed by just the way it looked. And CGI cannot do that. It's a very like horror snob cliche, but CGI cannot trick your brain into like feeling a little bit queasy like the practical effects can. There is something like so visceral about this film. And the crazy thing that it really it's not one monster. The Thing isn't one effect. It's by definition, it's a different thing every time. So you have, there's a reason that the effects supervisor was up. Oh God, I've forgotten his name now. My brain's
Rob Bottin.
Bottin, yeah, because we're making a joke about his fancy name. Because I was trying to make, because I always think Bottin as well, but yeah, it's Mr. Bottin. Want to make a posh joke there, but the reason he was up for so long is because there is a different, like, spectacular effect. Like every time you see the Thing in this film, it is something different. It isn't just the dog monster. It isn't just the the mouth. It isn't just the head crab, which does get ripped off continuously. It isn't just all these different things all the time. It is each of them once, and then it changes. And I think that really keeps the mystery of the film up, because you really do start to think it could literally be anywhere, anyone, or almost anything. Again, the Thing, but it's also it's such good variety of visual design. And again, it's so sad that it was so panned when it came out, because that's another thing that rewards repeat viewing. Again, you see some amazing things that are only on screen for like 3 seconds.
Yeah, again, I'm genuinely shocked. I was not shocked, surprised, seeing like how this film had been panned when it first came out. Genuinely, it's like it took me back. I'm like, the visual effects on this film, the practical effects on this film were just on another level. And I mean, some of the stuff was so impressive. Like I say, again, the whole stomach opening bit when he's going to do the defibrillator. I hadn't reacted so positively to practical effects in a movie in a long time. It genuinely I was in awe. I was like, this is just incredible. That is exactly the kind of reaction that I wanted to have. And I was really like chuffed that this film actually gave me that. because
I
when
would
you
love
when
to
you
focus. Sorry.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because when you watch as as much horror as like you and I do, you do kind of become a bit not desensitized to it, but you kind of get used to it a little bit. So you see some crazy thing going on, you're like, okay, I've seen it all before. But that was just like, jeez Louise, man.
The thing about the defibrillator scene is it actually comes after an extended period of downtime. You don't see the thing much until the defibrillator scene.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of time between seeing it and the arms going through, and that's what really lends to the surprise. It's not constantly bombarding you with it. There's all this downtime in the film.
It just felt so perfectly timed in that moment because in terms of like you say, it was a bit of down, it was a downtime, and the mood was a lot lower, so you're kind of starting to relax yourself a little bit, and then it's just like bang, and you're like, what the and here we go, and then it just ramps up to 100, like, oh.
Well, it's building up something else as well in that scene, because Max obviously got really paranoid with the dynamite and all that, and it's kind of, is he going to shoot someone? Is the guy getting the scalpel going to do something? And it's like your attention's in the wrong place. The guy who's already dead's actually not dead.
What I wanted to bring up, extending from what Scrump raised, is like one of the best things that makes this an absolute classic is how the effects impact the story. So there is a weird logic that you are constantly chasing, that the thing behaves in ways we can't predict, but we have to try and get our head round, because it does do something different each time, but it's very physical. So like the logic of the thing is not like ghosts or wizards where, they cast a spell and suddenly the rules change. It's not magic sci-fi, but there's a weird logic that you're catching up. So the fact that the thing can physically change suddenly really switched up. And the defibrillator scene is the best example of just, once the thing has done it, you see, actually, the groundwork was there. Of course it could do that. Of course it could. And then it escapes and it's on to another thing. And you think, oh, actually, the groundwork was laid for us to understand that it can literally just drop its head off and try and get out that way. Yeah, it can do that, of course.
Yeah. Even the bit with that was reminding me of that bit
head
with the heads dropping
away.
off.
Yeah, it is very much an advancement on what we saw from Alien with the chest bursting scene.
Yes.
And that is a desire in a really sort of limited scope to give the monster an entrance from somewhere we've never seen before. It's not bursting out through a window, through a door, up from down below. It's burst out of someone and no one saw it coming. And the thing just sort of constantly works on that dynamic in the best way.
And obviously because of that, it's very difficult to kill. So it's this thing's more resilient than we originally thought, which is great.
It sets it up with a dog scene where it merges them all together, and you see that the thing is, wildly capable. And like I said, with the amount of space there is in this film, it shows both capacity for patience, but when it is discovered or cornered, it shows like capacity for like immense violence in a moment, and that's really what you're waiting for. There's a lot. This film is a masterclass in tension, and especially the pivotal scene, which we'll probably get onto, which is the blood scene, the hot wire scene.
Yes.
Which is
actually
has the worst effect, I think, in the entire film.
Are you talking about the hand?
I'm talking about the fake hand. Yeah. You don't see it in the moment, but you cannot. I'm sorry to ruin that. You cannot unsee McCready's fake hand.
I spotted it straight away, and I was like, "That's a fake hand." Okay, so like, you knew...
I'm about to shame myself. I didn't see it. I'm going to get that up now.
Sorry, where's the fake hand?
Yeah, you see it when he's about to poke the hot wire in the blood when it eventually pops up.
Yeah,
it's so good because you got these people tied up who are just like, "Come on, man!" You kind of feel sorry for them, and McCready's got the flamethrower and he can't quite get it working right. And there's all these elements in play. It's so good. It's like it's part farce as well. It's slightly farcical because these guys aren't, they're not hyper competent. They're not the best at tying people up. They're not the best, they're not quite adaptive for these situations. So it's just, it's all kind of ad hoc and a bit of a farce. And you're starting to think that maybe the thing isn't in the room and they're all just going to kill each other.
Yes.
Because, in the downtime bits, one of the biggest risks to all the characters in those moments is just someone going berserk and killing everybody because they're so paranoid.
Well, you see it with Blair, don't you? When he starts smashing up all the comms and stuff, and that sort of sets the tone that this is actually probably a bigger threat, or just as big of a threat, is people becoming too paranoid and starting to take each other out. I mean, they sort of allude to it, don't they, when they're doing the blood tests? Because I think moments before this, Kurt Russell's character McCready shot dead one of the guys, and they, even though like he went for him with a knife, then when they do his blood test and it comes back negative, like what's it? Charles's character just turns around and goes, so you're just a murderer now, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Which I don't think's fair.
I know he was defending himself. I thought, but but again, it's something they just kind of drop. It's not like it's not something that's lingered on it. After that, they make that comment and then they move on, because I think they all realise they've got bigger fish to fry at the moment than calling people bad names, and they didn't have an internet connection to do it on Twitter, so
I can't unsee it now, you bastards. Done it!
Yeah, that is a really bad fake hand. But it's the only real way you could do it, and it's not something you'd probably see in the cinema. Honestly, I think it's to do with like Blu-rays and us being able to see it now. But I think it's one of the only rough effects in the entire film, which is and it only stands out because the rest are so good.
I would say the it's a harsh thing to criticize now, but I think sometimes the transition from the effect, from the real to the effect, is just a little too soon. And I don't know if they could have had a buffer shot, but I really noticed it with the dogs, and I noticed it with the guy getting discovered in the blood scene. It was just like a bit too sharp a contrast when they switched to the effect.
I will say, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Scrump, but when I watched this yesterday, I distinctly remember that hand being there for a lot longer than just a bit when it all peaked on. He was doing that with negative blood samples as well. So, on the one hand, no pun intended, it's quite a poor effect. But even though it's noticeable, you still didn't really know when it was going to happen, because he was doing the tests and it was coming out fine. And you're thinking, oh right, and then they're just talking, puts the hand in, and boom. It's the distracting part of it. He's doing something else while applying it, so you're distracted. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, do you think that the faculty, the scene where they have to? I know I'm going well off topic, but you did you see it? Did you get that vibe?
Oh, the faculty is interesting. It's kind of a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah. But it goes out of its way to say that it's not, and it's more based on the Robert Heinlein. Right. But it absolutely, I mean, just for reference, guys, The Faculty is a 1998 film. It was written by oh, help me, what's his name? He did Scream. Kevin Williamson. This was when Kevin Williamson was the biggest, most busiest guy in Hollywood, yeah?
Yep.
And it was one of his scripts where they were just like, anything you've written, give it to us, we'll make it. So The Faculty was that, and it absolutely takes from The Thing in the best way, although... we're going to cover it one day. It does cheat egregiously in that film, in that scene even.
Oh, we've definitely, yes.
Maybe we shouldn't go into it now, but...
Not now. We'll save the spoilers for when we actually cover it, but I'd be really excited to cover that one.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And yeah, sorry, this scene is just exactly like you said, Scrump. Perfect timing, perfect tension, catching you on the offbeat.
Yes.
Because it is very slow, but then one thing I notice is when he tests the blood of I can't remember his name, the black guy though, and it's like real child, yeah, and he just looks at him in the chair, and then it just cuts him with the flamethrower already, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. They don't waste time, and I like that.
I was gonna. Well, it's because of that I think, weirdly enough, as tense as this is, this is also the funniest scene in the film.
Yeah.
It's a dark kind of humour to it, really.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's almost like a farce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is a farce because I think when can't remember his name, but he turns into the thing and his head opens up and he's just got him in his head for. Just clamped his head over the other guys for like it feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I think that could have done with being a bit shorter, but
no.
There are a couple of like. The thing is with John Carpenter, you always get that goofiness to it, but that's what makes it, a characteristic film. This doesn't have a huge, despite how good the effects are. It's not actually a very polished film. The pacing in parts can actually be a little bit weird, but it throws you off. It all kind of works in the movie's favor. I mean, there's the bit with Childs where they find his UFO, which is like tiny. It's like the size of like maybe a car in circumference. So he'd probably barely fit in the damn thing. You just can't imagine him like flying that out of there to like Washington and like fucking invading in it or something. Because it's actually, if you look at the shot, it's kind of you don't see it for very long, but it's kind of tiny and kind of silly that he was building that.
I really didn't like that he was building that. It's very goofy.
That's what I mean, but it is a goofy bit of the film, but it's also it's kind of fun. It adds a little bit of that schlock back into it. I wouldn't take it out of the film. I think it balances it a little bit. It is a bit silly and goofy, but that's what you get with a lot of John Carpenter stuff. And really, I think that's what helps this film not be too bleak and not take itself. It definitely doesn't take itself too seriously in places, which is great. A stone-faced thing would be a little bit unbearable, to be honest.
I mean, bear in mind as well, the thing does shapeshift, so it doesn't really matter how big it is because it can just kind of shrink itself. Be a head crab in there as well. So, yeah.
Blair's UFO is a goofy bit of the film, but it's also kind of funny.
As you say, John Carpenter is no stranger to it. Halloween does have. There's a kind of goofiness of why is Michael Myers just out in the middle of the street and no one has a problem? What's going on? Why does he take his time to string people up and dress as a ghost? There are some goofy moments in there. He's not ashamed, and of course, I just think it's probably like perfect suspension of disbelief management when you have moments like that. I think you are just brought into the realism of someone's head has just fallen off, grown legs, and run off, and someone getting to say, "You've got to be effing kidding me." Sorry, you've got to be effing kidding. It's like it's so perfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like that as well because that could have easily turned into we hunt for this little head crab for 20 minutes, but it's it's dead. It's like, it
could have gone so far, couldn't it? Like, I mean, if we're imagining the 2022 version of The Thing, what would that moment play out like?
Oh, that would be, like Haryan said, that would be a dragged out scene.
Yeah. Just pointlessly as well.
Yeah.
It's like you've shown off the practical effects. All right, that's cool. That's all you need to do.
I'm sorry. I love the way it just stood there in the doorway, waiting for them to be.
It was like stunned. Yeah. What do I do now?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
I could easily see them like doing a chase of a CGI head crab round.
Yeah.
Or someone would really milk that kind of fourth wall break.
Yeah.
But this judges the tone really well. It's also, obviously, it's quite an influential moment. Other things have used "You've Got to Be Effing Kidding." The most blatant is It Chapter 2 from 2019,
Yeah.
which fully copied the head coming off, growing spider legs, and they actually did chase it around. And
It's so goofy.
that one just didn't work because in that case it's such an obvious reference. It's like looking at the camera, winking, saying,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
"Hey, horror fans, see what we did, huh?" Like, yes, we get it, we get it. It might be interesting to talk a little bit about the worldview of the thing and just what's going on in this whole thing. So the comment was a while ago, but John Garris points out that Howard Hawks didn't care for the remake. You can understand why. It's sort of like Cape Fear. That was remade a generation later, and the director and stars, Gregory Peck, Robert Mitchum, Martin Balsam, they all kind of thought it was too gross, it was too mature, it was too brutal. They found it uncouth. They also apparently didn't get on with each other at all, which was kind of interesting. Howard Hawks, you can understand him finding this quite difficult because it's... I need to do like the full rewatch of Thing from Another World, but the take in that was a lot more optimistic. It was a lot more the crew of the station basically pull together and work as a team, which does not happen here.
No. Well, they kind of work as a team in bits, like when they take down Blair when he's popping off his revolver and smashing the place up. But yeah, Kurt's pretty much on his own until he basically says, "Now you're allowed to live."
Yeah. Well, this is a film where like the order does break down rapidly.
Oh yeah.
Which again feels more realistic.
What does that? I'm sorry. What does that poster say behind? They aren't.
I'm so glad you asked. It's such an interesting poster, isn't it? Of all the things that could be placed in the background.
They aren't labelled what?
I think there's kind of two things going on here in one of the bigger themes, and it is suspicion. So one of the things is very much, this caused a bit of controversy, but one of the obvious readings is that in The Thing, you have people who go around looking like regular humans, but they've actually got something inside of them which they could pass on to you, and it would be kind of deadly. And you really need to test their blood to be certain. There we go.
Is it good AIDS or is it bad AIDS?
82 is a bit early for that.
It's a little early. I mean, the case is stronger in, say, Fright Night in 85, but that poster in the background says they aren't labelled chum. And
yes, I have VD, yes.
Yeah.
It's like a World War II thing.
Yeah. It's a little early, but also it's clever because they aren't labelled chum. It's like chum, my pal, but also chum as in like bits of meat you'd throw out when fishing, right? Or pedigree chum. It's like the people in the base aren't labelled chum, but they are meat. They are meat that's going to get eaten.
I don't think it's that deep. I just think it's like a funny nod to Contagion, and also like I think it is like a World War II poster thing about GIs not getting VD from Les French maidens.
Well, I was going to say, thank God it's not a gay reading.
The Alabastard knows exactly what I'm doing every time getting that reading in there. I do my best.
Everyone has AIDS.
It's a little early. It's a little early for it. But,
I guess it could be an allegory to the Red Scare as well. Like,
I was going to say
here who's not quite who they say they are.
Yeah, Cold War, but basically there's a sort of inhuman alien force.
The original's got a bit more of that in it in terms of 51.
Oh, okay.
That's a little bit pre-Red Scare. But it was kind of that time when there was still a lot of paranoia in the US after 49 about who could and couldn't be a communist. So you could probably make that. You could probably make that claim a little bit more about the original as well. Thing from Another World. A lot of the 50s sci-fi stuff, though, very heavily has that in it, though. So it's kind of like throw a dart.
Oh, heck yeah. Most obvious example is our beloved 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, starring one Kevin McCarthy, of course. Yeah, it's extremely blatant in that. I absolutely love it. But I sort of see it here that I feel like they're using the sort of the old VD thing, the potential AIDS thing, and the Cold War, all as part of like giving off this impression of just like a world of mistrust and suspicion. It just really feeds into what's going on there.
It's amazing how cohesive it is as such a troubled production. This doesn't feel like a film that went through development hell.
I never would have got that impression.
No.
I never got that impression, I should say.
I sometimes get hints of it, but mostly subtly. One of the problems I have with the film is the editing and the way scenes will end, often with just the fade to black.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I find that such an obvious scene-ending transition. It does remind me I'm watching a movie a bit too much. It breaks up the flow a bit too much, but it is also incredibly effective at confusing you about who's going where, which is fantastic because you want to be in the mind of these characters who really know they need to track people, but they can't follow it. Did you want to talk about some of the troubled production stuff, Scrump? I know we covered a little bit of the issues that Rob Bottin was having when he was basically, as a 22-year-old leading this production, working 7-day weeks, late into the night, basically after a year and a bit made himself completely stressed out and sick with pneumonia and exhaustion, which is why the kennel scene had to be done with the help of Stan Winston. Did you have any other aspects of the production that you wanted to get onto?
Is he there?
Oh no, we might have lost Scrumpy.
Oh, sorry. I am still here. I was sneezing for a bit there.
Oh, bless you.
I had the big sneeze. I was going to reply, and I immediately started sneezing. Oh no, I was going to talk about the fact that Keith David broke his hand the day before he was about to begin shooting. There's a lot of ill-fated accidents. No, I think we've been over some of the pre-production development hell. Sorry, we've been over some of that already with the previous stuff. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of calamity. They had to film. I think it was filmed in Alaska, if I remember, especially external stuff. And they had to build the sets during the summer. And then they actually just let snow cover them. If I remember, so it was really quite difficult. It means they could not be heated. It was very low. The lenses kept freezing and breaking because this was actually filmed largely, especially the exterior shots, in the cold. That's not a soundstage with fake snow on it. They filmed this in Alaska in the winter. Like I said, they built the sets and let snow cover them. So it was quite a difficult production for people.
I think following that, they did have to give up and do some relocation shots.
Oh yeah.
So I think they were basically defeated by the weather is the read I get. I haven't got confirmation of that, but I get the feel that they did because they went and shot a bunch of extra stuff on a constructed soundstage that they had to refrigerate.
They would have to, yeah. But there's quite a lot of this. This is location filmed, which really adds to the feel of the film.
It totally works. It looks amazing.
People feel miserable and cold in a lot of this because they are. And it's very difficult to film in somewhere like Alaska. It's very difficult to film in somewhere that's really outside of kind of a film town, if you know what I mean. You've got your infrastructure in LA, you've got it in Toronto, you've got some of it in, weirdly enough, in places like Nevada and things like that. or any of these places that have had film subsidies. I know British Columbia used to have it in certain places, but anywhere where there isn't like ready film infrastructure, it is very difficult to do kind of scouted location filming without a very, very significant budget. And because the budget of this film, it was moderate, it wasn't massive. It only had a budget at the time of about 15 million, which was about middle budget at the time. For context, it was actually relatively high for the time. Sorry. For context, the budget of ET was about 10.5 million, but that was a relatively cheap production because no one expected ET to be as big as it was. But I'm ruining a little bit of discussion later because we're going to have to talk about at some point why this film was a failure. But yeah, the thing, it wasn't fantastically high budget. It went over budget, if I remember correctly. And I think including marketing, it barely made its budget back. It was, I think, 19 million I'm seeing at the box office here.
It could be about that. I know it was a big disappointment, but they sunk so much money into it because they were confident, especially after Halloween and Alien. They thought, oh, people want the scary Alien movie. They can do that.
Yeah. I mean, to put into context as well, $15 million in 1982 would be worth just over 43 or just under 43.5 million in today's money. So, like Scrump said, you know, it wasn't a small budget for the time, especially when it comes to a horror film as well, because horror films tend to be a lot lower.
It was big for a horror film, yes.
Definitely, definitely.
I mean, the thing we mentioned earlier was the studio basically balking at having to spend money on the effects. Like, they really did just want this to be a man in a suit. Which,
yes.
No, thank you. No disrespect to those films, but the beauty of it is how much they destroy that setup, basically. Oh.
Yeah, this, like I said, the film, it had a high middling budget, but it didn't have a ridiculous budget, but it did go over budget quite heavily.
Yeah,
which was part of its woes.
Sorry, Maverick, I framed that very badly. So, Halloween's come out in 1978, and it was a massive hit as a low budget, fairly guerrilla movie for John Carpenter, giving him director cred, which is how he got to I think John Garza said it. He'd already done Escape from New York on a bigger budget. So he was getting his sort of kudos as a director and ability to have more say in a production. He wasn't just like, a clapboard monkey being told to put out latest product. But the thing providing the interest in a scary alien movie was Alien from '79. So, sorry for misleading with that.
No. I know what you meant. It's film logic at the time was that horror did well financially and alien films did well financially. So a horror alien film must be box office gold, right?
Hey
really
guys, MMA is hot. Let's make 20 UFC movie. I mean, I say that as if I haven't watched them all. I am disgraceful.
Well, this
Warrior was good. I like that.
Yeah, this was a Universal Pictures distributed film, and this is part of John Carpenter's curse with major Hollywood studios. I don't think, until relatively recently, I don't think he made a film with a large company that actually made any money. Because Vampires was Sony Pictures, and that didn't make its budget back, I don't think.
No.
I think the only real big hits he's had were Halloween, which was a smaller production company that wasn't a major Hollywood film, and I know Escape from New York made quite a bit of money, but again, that wasn't a massive Hollywood release. That was a more independent. I think if I remember correctly, apart from TV movies, this was his first big studio picture, and it was a really rather big box office dud, unfortunately.
I believe so. I think he did okay on Christine, but yeah, he didn't do massively well. Oh, sorry, I'm a fool, and I forgot that he also got The Fog out, where he was trusted with some slightly bigger names as well. You know, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins at the time.
Yes, again, that was a smaller production house, though.
Yes.
That was Avco, I believe.
Oh, could be. Oh, yes. I've just looked on his wiki. It is also where he met Rob Bottin. Bottin. Fancy Rob, as we'll call him.
Just call him Bottin. It's fine.
People also forget Starman, which I quite like as a film. And again, that didn't make money either.
Yeah, I've never seen Starman. What's it? I haven't seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man either, but I don't think that has the best reputation. And his Village of the Damned, I don't think.
No, it does not. That is a Chevy Chase vehicle, and that also did not. That is a famous failure because I think it had like a $50 million budget, something like that, and only made like 10, 15. Yes. Yeah, he's not got the best financial track record, which is amazing for a filmmaker. So, well, at the box office, he makes bank on home video, which is always the way it goes.
Well, he's got a cult following. You know, you will generally give him a go. I mean, I think The Thing isn't even my favorite film of his. For me, it's got to be In the Mouth of Madness. I think that is just amazing. Possibly an unpopular opinion around here, but stand by it. Gosh darn it.
Well, I was gonna say I've not seen that film, so I can't really say. But I mean,
it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Halloween, I've seen Vampire, I've seen The Thing, and I've seen The Fog as well, I believe. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say that it would be The Thing. I really enjoyed this.
I'm glad, like I said, Haryan, having only seen it for the first time, like I'd like to hear your extended take on it, because it's interesting to have somebody who didn't see it in their earlier life.
I mean, I can see a lot of things. I mean, as I say, Soma being the biggest one that I can think of. Just Soma almost feels like like they just took this film and put it underwater. And with less aliens, because I mean, having an isolated base in the middle of Antarctica, great. Obviously, the mistrust that they all basically fell into. It already felt like they only kind of liked each other because they had to, from the start. And then, obviously, as the film goes on, they just, as I say, the mistrust just gets massive. They're trying to. As you said, there's a load of mysteries that keep popping up. You know, how do we kill it? Or you just put it in a big fire cauldron. Okay, well, who knocks out all the blood? We don't know. Oh, it doesn't matter because now people are dying. And, well, not even disappearing, just acting strange. You know, the helicopter parts are going, things like that. There's a lot of things they kind of throw at you. And that, on the first watch, I did kind of forget. Not too long after, but then say, oh, the UFO, it must have done it from the helicopter parts. Oh yeah, the helicopter parts were missing. So it was really, really tightly written, which I always appreciate. I just kept enjoying it. I couldn't really find too much fault for my first time watching through. But I think on a second time, I'll probably find more things that I'm like, oh, that was a bit tismy. And then other things where I'll go, oh, that was actually really good and thought through. And as you say, I mean, this probably has more than one 16-minute video essay just on who got the blood, which was probably about 2 minutes of the film. Like, there's going to be way more than that. Like, where did they probably put the thought in as to where Blair got the time to rip apart the helicopter and then go in and smash up the radio room, which is another scene I really liked. Because he shot 6 bullets from a 6-bullet revolver.
I was going to say you must have autism that one. Good.
I did, yeah.
Well, the canon of the film is he's not actually turned by that point. He's probably turned while he's in his cabin.
Yeah.
That seems to be what the film hints at. So he's just Wilford Brimley is actually just having like a diabetes freak out. His blood sugars all over the place in that scene. He's not actually the thing.
Diabetes smash.
Yes.
I wondered when we'd get to that amazing bit. Where is it? Where is it? I saved it because it's so good, and I can't find the darn thing now.
It is quite funny to think about that. The whole team just can't.
Love it.
You know, he's just going around with an axe, and it's like, surely 6 you could take it, and then it turns out he's got a gun, and you're like, oh, maybe not.
Absolutely based and Ted pilled. He's
They're all
taking
just
care
like,
of every computer.
Yeah, I mean, poor radio guy.
I know he's in the corner crying, more or less.
Well,
isn't he?
once he takes out all the communication equipment, because once he realizes what's happening, he realizes that if they radio for help, this thing's going to get out.
Yeah.
So
essentially,
yeah.
I would say he's essentially just containing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to keep it in the Antarctic.
Yeah,
So
he's just ahead of the game. I love it.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because he's clearly lost it at this scene. You know, he's having the diabetes moment, and yet he's still probably making the most sound decision in that moment of time by keeping it contained and trying to minimise the risk of it spreading out further. Because it's when he's sitting there watching the computer and he's watching the little samples. And the test is like, if it gets out into the wide population, it's like 27,000 hours before it takes over the world. And you could just see the despair in his face in that moment. And then obviously you get this bit. You get this bit.
Yeah, I did quite. I honestly found it quite funny seeing that, because it's such a weird thing for a computer program to like model like that.
I know,
it's usually yeah, you'd usually kind of get a graph or something, but this was just words of. And I get it was for the audience, but
yeah, it's very sci-fi computer, but it's also
I also think it doesn't. Interestingly, it doesn't quite get what does happen. Like the version we see isn't exactly what goes on as we learn later, and it's quite interesting that he's making this prediction based on what he knows at the time, but he's slightly wrong when he models it.
He could have been using Sage models, though. To be fair,
yeah, that's a classic Sage model.
Yeah, it does end up. It does end up with him blaming the dog guy, which ultimately sort of primes us until the dog guy. Sorry, is it? It's not Parker, is it? What's his name? He's just in my head as dog guy.
Yeah, he's dog guy.
Yeah, okay.
Dog guy.
Senor Wufo.
Senor.
Nice.
I love that guy. Actually, he really won me over, and he just gets completely screwed over. Hey, Chancellor Chieftain, did you get a promotion? Good to see you, lad. Good to see you. Haryan, actually, can we stick with you? Because I really wanted to know your reaction to one scene, which is kind of like a pivot for the film. It's a set piece before the big blood-based set pieces, and I think it's almost like a test for whether this is your film or not. If I can find the darn thing. Gosh darn it, it's a dog scene. I'm trying to find my dog picture. There we go. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The kennel. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a bit of... I'm like, how does a dog know to rip open a chain link? Well, I kind of... It is quite weird, I think, for a dog to kind of... While all the rest are barking, this one just happens to bite open a chain link fence that I guess was already damaged. I mean, I still like it. I don't mind. I mean, ultimately, it's inconsequential because does it actually get out? Or because I think they hear the dog barking before he actually gets out.
I think a couple of dogs get out.
Yeah, it's only when apparently his name is Parker. We'll go with Parker, but Senor Wufo is also acceptable. Yeah, he opens the door and a bunch of dogs absolutely leg it out.
Yeah, so they did go through. I think I just have all the dogs barking at it. It was a bit weird in my opinion, for a dog to be doing that.
I mean, how did you feel when suddenly, like, the face just splits open like a flower?
Oh, my head went, wow, that's very Resident Evil, and I really wish it didn't. But I can only know things through mum pop culture. I did really enjoy that. And then all the guys just come in with shotguns and they all just shoot through the fence. I did enjoy the firing squad after that.
I have to say sorry to interrupt, but I have to say the dog that they used to play the imposter, the alien, I thought was really good. Like when they stick him in when they stick him in the kennel and he's just sitting there, and it's almost like he's looking like he's just looking dead set ahead, and it looks unnatural, you know.
That was some good dog acting, yes.
Yeah, really good dog acting.
You do get used to seeing guys. Do you remember back a couple of weeks to the girl on the 3rd floor and the lovely dog in that, but he was incredibly directly, obviously watching his handler and just really happy about it. He was so happy to be a good boy, which it's kind of difficult in horror movies because the dogs have to make you feel tense, and generally they're just such good, happy boys following orders.
Yeah, no, I do remember. But I got completely different vibes from this husky. I actually, I genuinely like the tension still felt real in that moment. You know, in the scenes with that dog, like you knew something was up with it. But it was behaving in a very sort of, I wouldn't want to say unnatural, but in a very peculiar way. And then it just sort of topped it off when it sat down in that kennel and was just deadpan staring straight. I was like, that was a good.
And then its head splits open.
And then its head splits open and starts to consume. Oh mate, and it does some like cooming all over the dogs as well. And I'm like, oh, poor doggies. Especially that one that gets pretty much fire hosed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's that dog there, the poor thing.
Yeah.
I think the film sells their desperation so well, and obviously, you're primed. I don't know if everyone else feels like I can't watch anything happen to the animals, so this is a really tough watch for me. This scene, I really feel bad for them. And it gets me so bought in.
Yeah, it is. It's a very unfortunate scene. It's like, no, not the heckin' doggos, not the woofy boys.
But
unironically. This one, ironically, yes.
That dog had 2 days till retirement as well.
Oh god, yeah.
It's also like that logic is there. Is you're seeing disgusting things, but you don't know what's going on. Like the legs come out, and then the whippy tentacle things. I just find so off-putting because it really unnerves me. It disgusts me because I've got no idea what's going on, but because it's physically there, but behaving in this way that I just cannot comprehend. It's setting off so many sort of alarm bells and disgust reflex.
It's very Lovecraftian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is good, because that should be impossible to actually put on screen. But
yeah, Carpenter
does it pretty well.
Yeah, Carpenter tackled Lovecraft much more extensively in The Mouth of Madness, but he's absolutely dipping into it in the sort of general sense of we encounter an unknown, unexplained thing. We gain some knowledge of it, but ultimately it's useless and we're doomed and we're all losing our minds. The broad Lovecraftian vibe, absolutely, it's there.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say as well, after this scene, there was a bit of a thing where I was like, what? Because they're watching the Norwegians expedition. And I think one of the guys says, oh, we're going to learn nothing from this. And I'm like, you've just seen them go on an expedition. Of course you're going to learn where this thing comes from. Why would you say that? And then obviously they find the ship and put they put thermite on, and for some reason the film thought thermite meant dynamite. Because thermite just burns, but there's an explosion on the screen.
They did say that, didn't they? They said thermite charges. I also love they do the dissection here and come out with basically no idea of what happened. I love it.
Well, yeah. Well, Brimley's kind of like, yes, that's dog. That's not dog.
Yeah, there's things here that shouldn't be here. And then he looks at it under a microscope and has a good freak out. So
yeah, and then computer model time that tells you Yeah, very accurate
much.
numbers with no error bars.
Yes, exactly. The psychic computer. It's basically a
Yeah.
digital fortune cookie.
Yeah, 80s computers are, never. The 80s computers are basically your late 90s to mid 2000s CGI. Just get through it. Do you guys remember Never Say Never Again? And the computer war game in that?
Yes.
Maybe not. Chat, you've got this. Scrump's got it.
I haven't seen films.
Okay.
I've
it's
seen
kind
all
of
all the Bond films, so
it's an awkward moment, like the Advanced War computer game, that Sean Connery has to give it a go at, and none of the rules are really explained, and then they're changed rapidly, and it's very flashing lights and thing go brrr.
Oh wow, I'm watching it on YouTube now. It's very Star Wars. Neat.
Really
Doesn't seem
bizarre
to make
scene.
sense.
Probably a lot of money went into that. I just got this up because you mentioned the ship, and I just thought I hope people can get it from this image. It's, you watch it on a full screen, you can see it, but yes, this is some good use of matte painting. Like, this is keeping the budget in line. Did that stand out to you?
I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a painting.
I realized it was a matte painting, but it also is a nice matte painting, so I don't really care. It looks a bit stylized, but you can also tell why they did it, and in the shots it's used, it services the film. So,
oh, totally, it's the right choice to make. I also think it kind of makes it look a bit classy. Like, my brain is cued to read matte paintings as kind of classy.
Good ones, yeah, but if you've ever seen a lot of late 70s stuff, you've seen some terrible matte paintings. I'm trying to think of a good example. There's a few out there. I can't think of one right now.
There's occasionally your brain picks up on them, or the other would be rear projection in cars, your classic.
Oh well, yeah. Well, Airplane made that impossible to do again. if anyone's seen it, well, you must have seen Airplane, won't you?
Oh heck yeah. The Naked Gun has a lot of fun with it as well. The
Oh,
whole
yeah.
intro is just rear projection fun times. Yeah.
I need to see that.
You haven't seen Naked Gun?
It's on
I
Netflix.
know.
It's on Netflix.
I know.
It's so good. The Naked Gun series is so good.
And also, what's it? Police Squad as well. Have a look at that. That's the
You
TV
gotta say
series.
Police
before.
Academy.
No, Police Squad, the TV series before the movies. I think I might actually have a playlist of the first series.
Oh, nice.
On my channel. Let me have a look.
It does get a bit worn out, though, the Naked Gun series.
Yeah.
There's Naked Gun 2.5, and Naked Gun 33 and a third. Yeah.
They are great, though. Leslie Nielsen. Mwah.
I like 2. 3's a bit... it's okay.
Yeah. Back to the thing.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for getting us back.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't exactly sure where to take it, because the broad strokes are kind of set up that they are in this interesting scenario. They learn stuff, it doesn't really help them, and you just get them mounting paranoia and mounting schemes, leading you to, and it then just gets this kind of weird, absurd quality and dark humor that I absolutely love. We mentioned it earlier, but Blair gets his ideas. He goes on his Ted Pilled rampage, destroying the technology, and they lock him away. And then next time you see him,
yeah, he's got the noose.
This is the scene I was talking about.
Yeah.
He's just got the noose there. Because
I'm ready to come out now.
Yeah, he's probably thinking that if he gets turned into the thing, which he does, but if he gets turned into the thing, he's going to hang himself. But obviously the thing gets him before he can. Or maybe it got him... The darker thing is, maybe it got him after he did.
Oh. See, it assimilates. Ooh. It's true. That's the thing. It's the nice mysteries in this, yeah. Because I'm still not sure when he actually turned.
Anyone else see rubber in that picture?
Oh no. I can.
Taken seconds before disaster.
Rubber, no.
Ew. Kinda looks like him.
POV, you're about to advocate for modernising the Tory party. We can turn them round, lads.
Oh, I do like him. I need him for his Zodiac commentary. He's very good on that subject.
He was good, yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh gosh, where's the thing? Yeah.
Where's the thing?
It's sorry. I'd saved another thing, and it's difficult, guys.
Mercy.
It's difficult to keep track of everything.
Well, shall we have a little quick talk? I don't know if I know you guys didn't really get to see much of it, but the thing from another world. Have you seen that before?
No.
Proper Horror
I
Show
haven't.
or?
I saw it ages ago, and we talked about it a bit in terms of the special effects, but I haven't rewatched it. So yeah, if you want to go into that a little bit, that would be lovely.
Well, the thing from another world, you're right. It is a slightly different premise. It doesn't have all the wacky effects, but a lot of people don't realize that the thing is essentially a remake. It is possibly the best remake of all time. It follows a relatively similar structure in terms of premise. You've got the guys on the expedition. The main character is called Mac. Kind of the broad strokes are there, but it really only takes the setting, it takes the conceit, it takes the idea of the monster besieging people at the in a cold environment. I think it's actually the North Pole in the thing from the world.
It is.
Whereas it's the South Pole. Yes, it's flipped. Whereas the South Pole, because the North Pole is kind of passé by the 80s, to be honest. It's the South Pole in this film, but like I say, it's 1951. It is very much of its era. It isn't quite as pulpy as some of the others, but it is a little bit. It's a bit more serious in tone. But it does have the crash flying saucer. It does have they find in the film, they're basically the Norwegians. They find the block and they thaw out the humanoid body. The thing from the world has a plot more similar to the remake of the thing, except it isn't tied down obviously by being a prequel sneakquel to a beloved 80s film. I'd say it's worth a little bit of a watch. It's definitely an interesting film from its period. It's also interesting because again it's 51, so again it's actually quite early on in that pulp sci-fi kind of time period, and it isn't quite as wacky as some of its early 50 super low budget contemporaries.
No, I do feel it was quite daring as well with how can I say, what they were showing on screen. Like, it might be difficult for us to imagine, but it was a heck of a lot. You've got to remember that, like, even, okay, I might be off on the date a little bit, 1961 murders in the Rue Morgue, injecting someone with gorilla blood was too much. That had to go. So to have a creature that is set on fire, and then I believe they electrocute it, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like, having a thing be set on fire and still going is quite a lot to show to a 1950s audience. That was really pushing the bar. Like, this is the era of you take a bullet and you go down. Something later resurrected by Christopher Nolan, so he can keep that sweet, sweet 12A.
Hang on. The fire scene you're talking about, this is the one that you showed us on episode 25, wasn't it?
I did, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
Nice, because I was going to talk about the pyrotechnics, not pyrotechnics, but the pyro effects and the stunt work on there.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can call it pyrotechnics.
I suppose, yeah. But yeah, so I'm
we-
literally just skimming through the thing from another book because I've just found it on iPlayer, and I literally just saw one of the stills, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the clip."
It is. It is. I could sense that the proper horror show was getting there with it. It's quite a famous scene because it is one of the first times you see an extended shot of a full fire suit. It's quite an innovative stunt, and it's quite a. It's weird because one of the dangers with the full fire suit thing is actually it makes the person in the fire suit very cold. Because of the evaporating alcohol, and it actually reduces your body temperature, which is a weird thing. But it and also suffocating is a big thing too because it consumes all the oxygen.
Oxygen, yeah.
Yeah, but it is quite. That
Just
was
watching it now.
done quite a few times. You see a lot of full fire suit stuff in a lot of 60s, 70s, and 80s films. But yeah, seeing it on screen was quite. You're right. It was quite daring. It was also quite an innovative stunt to see. Because it is, especially with the oxygen consumption, quite a dangerous stunt, and that's why you don't really see it anymore. That's why it's all CGI.
I'd say it's very powerful still. That scene because the fire looks so violent.
It's
it
really violent.
goes
Yeah,
up.
yeah. I'm literally just looking at it now, and it's really ferocious, especially because they douse him again as well with petrol and just sets him off again.
Yeah, apparently that wasn't intentionally. Like they, from what I remember seeing some of the documentary stuff, is they thought that was a bit much, and they were quite. It wasn't supposed to go that far.
Oh wow!
I don't think he was actually supposed to be doused again, or if they did douse him, I think it was supposed to be water or something.
Right.
I think they definitely took the stunt further than they thought they were going to, but they kept the plate, if I remember correctly. Also, because it's black and white film stock, it's 50s black and white film stock, which makes incandescent things look even brighter a lot of the time. And you don't see a lot of. That's why fire looks so good in Frankenstein, for instance, because it's quite early black and white film stock, and it looks great. You really get that sense of the light coming off it, and you don't see kind of large amounts of, especially fire effects on a stuntman, on black and white film stock. So it's kind of interesting in that aspect to see today, because generally when you see fire used like that in later films, it's always done on color film because the era it's from. I also think that what is it? Was it who? Yeah, you did mention the director didn't really care for the John Carpenter version. Christian Nyby, I do believe. Although again, like you said, the film was quite daring in its own day because 82. I keep saying that, but it's early 80s. It's a film that would have done exceptionally well being released a different year. Because I had a quick look. Okay, what films can you name that came out in 1982 without looking?
Oh gosh, so Friday the 13th Part 3, I believe, came out. I think we're 2 years away from Nightmare on Elm Street. I think we're possibly no, Halloween 2 was 81, wasn't it?
Not horror, but Return of the Jedi was 83.
Oh yeah. E.T. obviously.
The problem is E.T. Sorry, what else? There's a lot of stuff here, especially in its genre as well. You have Rocky 3 came out in 82. Rambo came out in 82.
Nice.
E.T. obviously. Wrath of Khan came out in 82. Blade Runner came out in 1982. You had Tron that came out in 1982. You had, what else was there? Conan the Barbarian came out in 1982.
Oh, jeez.
The Poltergeist as well. Creepshow.
Poltergeist.
Yes. Damn. Yep. So it was an E.T. had nuked everything at the box office as well at that point, unfortunately. So it was an extremely Halloween 3 came out.
Halloween 3. Oh, well done, Tom Atkins. You got in there.
Oh, Amityville 2: The Possession. Interesting.
It was
very.
Yeah, it was a very Dark Crystal, which was another film that didn't do probably as well as it should have done.
Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. I think this Beastmaster. If anyone remembers Beastmaster.
Hey, Beastmaster's on.
Creepshow, obviously. And actually, one of the most underrated, I think, animated films, Secret of Nim, came out the year too. Weird aside, I like the Secret of Nim quite a lot.
And also, who could forget film of the year? Grease 2.
Michelle Pfeiffer can. I'm right, aren't I? It's kind of so. I mean, look at this. Yeah, they dropped the Thing on June 25th.
Yes.
I mean, even that, like, it's sort of weird to think of being in the middle of summer. And you go and see,
yeah.
Would you
a
want
winter
to see
movie,
that?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of, a lot of people, it's critically panned, but a lot of good films in the 80s were critically panned quite heavily. I think really it was just because it was such a stacked summer, and E.T. especially just ate everyone's lunch. It was a phenomenon. So I believe E.T. became the highest grossing film since that point, maybe? It certainly became one of the fastest grossing films.
Yeah, it's just it's not gonna look in. Gosh, I was trying to think. There's another one that had that just got absolutely screwed because something else came out and completely dominated the box office. And I've got a feeling it was Jurassic Park, and I'm trying to think what the other movie was.
You're thinking of Event Horizon.
Yes, I am. That's the one. That's it. Yes.
Nice.
Using my mind powers.
Yes.
I was thinking of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Oh, that's a good film.
Turtles Back in Time or Secret of the Ooze?
Yes.
Maybe we should cover one of those someday. Oh gosh. Yeah, it had trouble. It had trouble. I don't know if the studio under-promoted it. I think probably pre-screening responses from critics might have inclined them not to push it very hard. That does happen. But as you say, when you're against such a stacked list, you're going to struggle.
Event Horizon always makes me sad because of basically the lost cut of it that was essentially destroyed. Because apparently the film itself could have been a lot better than the one we got, but yeah.
It does feel relatively tame for the reputation it had. That when it came out, I remember I was trying to rent it in Blockbuster, and I was not yet 18, and the person on checkout told my parent, "Oh, I wouldn't do it. It's a bit much," and I had to get something else. Never forgive, never forget. I could have seen that in 1999, but I was robbed.
I think it also basically ruined Paul W.S. Anderson's career as a serious filmmaker.
Yeah, but again, it found a life as a cult movie, very much as this one did. The beauty of the video rental market becoming so vibrant, and the aforementioned Blockbuster gaining and being able to get some great franchising deals with the studios. I think that's like a major factor in this finding a cult market. Thank goodness.
Well, this is I don't know if you realize, but the same guy who directed Mortal Kombat directed Event Horizon.
I do, yes.
Yeah, because he went on to also famously do the Resident Evil films, which he did as a obviously a Mila Jovovich vehicle, because she was his spouse at the time, I believe.
Len Wiseman energy.
Yes. But he was supposed to have a bigger career in Hollywood, and I think Event Horizon getting taken off him and then being the failure that it was kind of cost him that. But we're getting way off topic, so
yeah. No, that's okay. That's okay. We can come back to one of the main. Well, back to the Thing, and one of the main unanswered questions, I guess, is the Thing is going on all these rampages. It's by the time we've done the blood test, there's only about 5 members of the crew that we know are alive. We don't know how many are possessed. But we don't know how much cannabis had the thing smoked before the rampage. It's really important.
That is an important, pertinent question, I'd say.
We've got to find out.
It's well known that cannabis as a drug does cause mass psychosis. I made that up. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
Are we? No. We're doing some reefer madness. It's called "We Do a Little Reefer Madness." Famously responsible for the current invasion of Ukraine.
Yes.
As per Saint Hitchens.
Oh, that's true.
It will leap out of a dark alley and stab you to death. It's Peter. It's such a. I enjoy the Peter Hitchens blames everything on weed memes. They're such a niche, but they're such a, for people who understand, they're such a good niche.
If you can just drop one in there, and it for the people who know, it's wonderful. If I had time to shoot the thing onto an e-scooter, that would have been perfect. But alas. Shall we move onwards to? We're coming up to the end. Shall we just get to discussing the finale?
Sure.
And some of the
Yes.
Because I think the finale catches people out, doesn't it? It's not what you're expecting, even though it follows on absolutely perfectly from what we've seen. Basically, it's all gone, and they decide they're going to blow it up. It's just the last thing you're expecting. Like, the hero's got to save the day, right? And we just
Not necessarily.
No.
Well, I mean, if it was classic Hollywood schlock, yes.
Well, for those who don't remember, they've gone in, they've done the explosives thing, they've basically blown the entire base up. There's a actually, I think one of the weaker parts of the movie. They go in, he basically fights some giant tentacles, everything's gone to shit. There's a bit of an explosive action scene. Gets a couple of one-liners in. And yeah, the end of the film is very uncertain. I don't know if the thing has actually been destroyed or whether it can survive from just a cell of itself. That's never established, whether you have to, completely incinerate it. And we don't, it's never said. We don't know really the fate of the thing at the end of this. And you have two main characters who are basically the equivalent, they're too cold to do it, but if they could, they'd be pointing guns at each other.
Yeah.
And neither of them are quite sure if one of them is the thing.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. Like, they're going down to do it, and you just start seeing people completely picked off. Like, we find out Blair has been taken over, and gets the guy who's in charge, whose name none of us remember. What's his name?
Gary.
Gary. There we go.
Gary.
I really
There
find
it is
the
still.
scene interesting, but it goes by so quickly. Just because I think it's the only time you see just the thing acting kind of unstressed, like
that
just as a
effect.
possessed human, and just how unexpressive and cold he is as he does this. I find so interesting, because the thing is just an absolute mystery throughout this film.
I love that
And
effect, by the way.
It never really has intentions that you can fathom apart from surviving.
Yeah, and the beauty is you are kept guessing, and off the information you're being given, like what it wants, what it can do, and who it has. Sort of how much intelligence it has is a major issue. You start trying to track back. How much was it talking? How much was a possessed person talking? Which is why the rewatches are so rewarding.
Yes. One of my favorite theories about the thing is that the thing just wants to go home, and the Norwegians were like cutting up the thing in the ice and burning bits of it, and is like, you know what, kind of fuck you guys, I'm leaving. And the thing's just having a bad day, and he just wants to leave. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't know what humans are. He wants to build his UFO and go home. He's just having a really bad day, and people will not stop trying to set him on fire.
He just wanted to be a good doggo, and then like the best doggo, and then they stuck him in a cage with all the other doggos, and he was like, "What? No, I'm the best doggo. I'll take care of those." And it all got misunderstood. It was a big misunderstanding, got out of hand. Yeah. I mean, on theories about the thing, I kind of love the idea that basically the ship wasn't the Thing ship. It was some other race's ship, and the Thing destroyed them and made it crash.
That'd be quite interesting. But again, it's not established. There was one bit, I swear, in the film where they mentioned about, oh, you know, the Thing, it wants to get cold. It wants to go cold. It wants to go back to sleep. I kind of thought to myself, unless I misheard that. Unless I misheard that, I kind of thought to myself.
Yeah, I can't think.
I think they do say that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're talking about the fact that it could just hibernate until help arrives. I think they're just talking about the fact they have to basically go and kill it.
Yeah. Although I did kind of think to myself, like, why don't you let it go to sleep and then toast it?
I think they're concerned they wouldn't be able to find it, or that the rescue team would turn up and one of them would still be the Thing as well. I don't know.
Of course, yeah.
Obviously, if they all freeze to death, and then someone comes to rescue them, and one of their Thing-infected bodies gets taken, I think that's kind of the context there. That's how I remember that. But anyway, I think
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Because they, I think one of them like takes the generator and the heat scan at one point. I think that's when that's said.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I do find this bit rather frustrating in a sense, in that it's kind of the bit where it does feel more like a standard horror movie where people are just going and getting picked off and you don't see. And I understand how that works with the horror of you just being completely uncertain.
I mean, to defend...
It feels very convenient too.
Well, to defend it at this point, they are just going to blow the base up with them inside. I don't think they're expecting to survive anyway, and that's why they split up, just to be like, you know, get fuel, you get dynamite, we'll blow it up. And they kind of half do it.
They do. But people are just like dropping like flies, and it feels like child's especially disappearing, and then coming back with the aura of suspicion felt a little cheaper than I felt it could be.
You wanted to, yeah.
Yeah. And then this fight with the giant monster, my understanding of this is that this was the studio kind of forcing it on them and saying, we need a big... No, it's a monster movie. We need the big monster fight. Make it big. Make it huge.
It's not really a fight, is it?
No, it's not. Didn't they do the same thing for Hellraiser as well? Oh, we need a big monster.
Oh, yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, they
and it doesn't
they
help.
felt it hadn't been enough. So yes, you need the big penis monster to come out and scrabble around again. And kind of similar. This was kind of reconfigured from animatronics they'd already made. So reasonably cost effective for what they had.
Imagine that, a big penis monster on International Women's Day.
Oh.
This was a great sausage fest to play for us, I have to say.
Definitely.
Unintentional, but a bit gold.
Because I mean, this did feel very Hollywood schlock, and it wasn't even that. It wasn't that bad as far as schlock goes, because he lights dynamite to blow it up. Then the penis monster comes out. It's like, oh my god! It's like, oh no, the dynamite went away. So he just runs over to it, does a sweet flip off the platform, or like a roll. Turns around, and just says, "Yeah, fuck you too." Just throws it at him.
Brilliant.
And then it's like a nuke.
That thing you said, Scrump, about sarcastic movie making.
Yeah,
this felt cynical.
You could read it like the little roll. Forward roll, you could read it as just like a little bit, a tiny hint of disdain towards a studio.
It just kind of felt like, well, the thing is, it's very small scale here, and it's like he didn't quite know what to do. It's like, it's a giant thing monster. Throw explosive at it. I don't mind the boss fight that this is, but it's definitely the weakest part of the movie. It does feel like, well, we kind of have to have this in it.
Yeah, it's such contrast to the final bit. You know, it's sort of it completely stands out. And then we do get to our brilliant ending, the subject of much discussion, and have either of them turned? There were fan theories. I don't know if you saw those about Macready set a trap, and he actually gives Childs a bottle full of petrol, and because Childs drinks it and doesn't remark it, then Macready knows he's a thing. Like, there are lots of theories going around like that, trying to work out for definitively if one of them has turned.
But that's just a theory.
Exactly.
A thing theory.
And cut.
It has the perfect ending, in my opinion. Nothing's
Definitely.
certain. We don't know if the thing's dead. Truly, we don't know if either of them are the thing. The film ends. I get maybe why reviewers and general audiences in some ways might not have liked it at the time, but like it's perfect. It's not a perfect film. It has some missteps, but overall, it's a great package. And
I've cracked it. I know why the critics didn't like this film.
Because it's good.
It's a good film.
No, because they're racist. And let me tell you why. Because the black guy lives until the end of the film. Therefore, film critics in the 80s. Well, let's just assume he does, because they assumed he does. Because obviously it must be racism.
I cannot imagine like not enjoying this film. It has so many layers to it.
I know,
even just as a spectacle, like an effects spectacle. It's enjoyable, even as just a, you know, it's not quite an action romp, but it's got, you know, it's well paced, it's suspenseful. I can see I guess the audiences that this appeals to actually evolved after the film came out, which is funny, again being ahead of its time. But it's unfathomable to me that you can be someone who's interested in cinema and not pick up on some of the more subtle, excellent things it's doing.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
There's a lot more neat picks than nitpicks in this film.
Again, I was just absolutely taken aback at the fact that critics like this film didn't perform well. And I know that there are films out there that have had sort of like the same initial reaction as the thing, and then gone on to be appreciated later on. But it did feel quite unusually negative in comparison to like those other films. But by the way it was sort of portrayed, is that this was a crap film. This should have, you know, this deserved to flop, and this, you know, even mentioning that there were production issues. Like I didn't get any of that. I thought this was, you know, nothing short of a masterpiece. This is a classic, and it should have been respected as such as it at its time, in my opinion.
It's the reaction to it as well was a lot of it focused on the effects. Honestly, to its detriment with the critics. Its effects were, I think, in the eyes of many critics, too good. They were just grossed out and didn't enjoy their film viewing experience. Which, it's kind of like the film's supposed to make you uncomfortable in that way. It's supposed to have a lot of body horror to it, and it's kind of funny that Cronenberg eventually in the 80s would gain a lot of critical respect by doing many of the same things later on. Whereas I don't think the critics were quite prepared for it in this. The reaction to it actually reminds me of the critical reaction to Fight Club. Because when Fight Club came out, they really just did not. I don't think they grasped the film in its entirety. Like they just completely missed the point with both those films. A lot of people thought Fight Club was, you know, a serious, po-faced endorsement of violence. People called it a fascist film.
Oh my god! Of course
they still do.
Not realizing many layers of irony. The you know, actual irony, not like ha post irony stuff that are present in it. The fact that a lot of it is, you know, I hate to say the word deconstruction, but it's very much a deconstruction of people's modern media fantasies. You know, it's a film with a lot more readings in it than just herder violence good. It reminds me of that too. I think they missed it in its entirety.
Yeah, well, there's also, we got to remember, sort of, just as we talked about, think who the screenwriter is typically, and what that might end up, how that might end up affecting the story. You got to remember who the critic is, you know, and their preferences and where they're published. Like, I've sort of said this before in other interviews, but there are 3 films in 1999 that really broke out in 1999 that really challenged convention, and the critics could manage one of them. So The Matrix, Office Space, and Fight Club. And they knew how to integrate The Matrix. What The Matrix was saying wasn't really challenging things that the movie critics tend to be in favor of. But Office Space and Fight Club are a lot harder to integrate into that worldview, as Eden Lake would later discover in 2009.
Eden Lake, is that the horror film with?
Yes.
Yeah, I know which one it is. With Magneto.
yes, indeed.
I love
Fantastic.
Office Space.
Office Space is just, it's so beautifully cynical.
It really does set the tone for a lot of good 2000s media as well. I forget that was 1999. It feels like a film that was made in like 2000. It feels like a film that was made in the 2000s, definitely. I hate to use the term, but it feels like a post 9/11 film. Ooh. In some ways.
I suppose. I mean, it's in what way, if you don't mind? I'm trying to get my head around that.
It's just the outlook of it, like the corporate outlook of it, the cynical nature, like the idea of, because a lot of the stuff, even though it was cynical in the 90s, it wasn't cynical in the same way the 2000s were.
It's not, oh, my boss is kind of a jerk, huh?
Yeah,
it's more like
not...
this whole enterprise is absolute BS.
Yeah,
it's all a house of cards.
Yes. It honestly, apart from some of the very late 90s specific stuff in it, also feels like a film that could have been made in 2009, 2010 in some of the ways.
It is like scarily accurate. It's one of those things that's just like, oh gosh, no, it's too real. Yeah. So possibly The Thing has a similar problem of, it's got a, it does have kind of a cynical worldview, a challenging worldview that's hard to integrate. It knows what some of the typical tropes of a horror movie are, and it goes out of its way not to do that. And in a way, it's largely, I just think, not the film that people expected it to be. Hence, possibly the bad ratings.
It doesn't have a particularly conventional structure. Like I said, it doesn't have a conventional structure. It doesn't have a conventional score. It doesn't really have a conventional cast. It doesn't have a conventional setting. It doesn't have a conventional monster, and it doesn't have a conventional ending.
I think I'll just settle on what you said earlier. I just don't think they understood it.
But it also. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying the only way to react to something like that is to look at it in disgust.
Bully journalists.
Exactly.
Bully them every day. Absolutely. I mean, I suppose the other thing we should talk about is quickly talk about as we are enraging Super Nanny as I speak. But this did, even though John Carpenter has his own curse when it comes to the box office, this is the first part of what would become known as his Apocalypse trilogy. So we have this, we then have Prince of Darkness, and I'll just check, when did Prince of Darkness come out? It's late 80s, I think. 87, we got Prince of Darkness. And then he caps off the trilogy with In the Mouth of Madness in 1994. All wonderful apocalyptic films, all fairly cynical, with fairly bleak endings, not what people are expecting.
Right.
And from a director who's sort of happy, who has, I think it's fair to say, a fairly cynical outlook on the world.
Poor man. Poor man. He should
Maybe
have
it's
happy looking.
Yes.
studios.
Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I think the thing is tied with Big Trouble in Little China for my favourite John Carpenter film. So I do really like Big Trouble in China.
Very good taste. Yeah, again, a film studios didn't really get, and a terrible production history, was literally going to be a Western. Went through, I think, 2 or 3 sets of screenwriters before John Carpenter got to do his thing.
Oh, Big Trouble in Little China it's so good on so many levels.
There's that weird level. Have you seen Prince of Darkness recently?
No, actually.
Oh, don't worry. So he specifically wrote a role in that for Dennis Dunn, who was I'm sorry, I never know character names. He was the sort of main fast talking guy, the guy who should have been the protagonist in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, well, he basically was, yeah.
Yeah, and Victor Wong from is it Egg Chen? Is also in Prince of Darkness. It's like this lovely time when suddenly you see Victor Wong everywhere. Like he's in Tremors, he's in those 2 films. He's a fairly unmistakable guy. It's really lovely seeing him around.
You get like the period of certain like mid-character actors who end up in all kinds of films. You get it especially on TV in certain eras as well. But yeah, we are definitely annoying Super Nanny. So
yes, we will round off. We will round off. Absolutely. So we've covered today, we've covered quite a lot. It's an unusual way of us dealing with the film, but I really enjoyed this conversation. So I'll open it up now. We'll go around people asking for their closing thoughts and score out of 12 burgers, and chat if you want to give your scores. I'd really like to know what you thought of the thing. I'm expecting some high numbers of burgers in here. And for the closing thoughts, to start off with, Scrump, would you like to go first?
yes, if I can find my unmute button. Sorry, I was scrambling through tabs there. Yeah, it's a classic film. It's a classic John Carpenter film. It's a very influential horror film. It's very influential on kind of horror and sci-fi design both in general. Yes, it is definitely a 12. I would say it's definitely 12 burgers from me. Yeah, it's a classic film, and I'm kind of amazed that neither of you two, well, one of you two hadn't watched it and the other one couldn't remember it, but I must have seen this film about 10 times, more than. It's probably one of my most watched films, because there is like we talked about, it is so dense and there's so much to get out of it in terms of its little mysteries, and it's also quite a fun, honestly, for a film as bleak and as cynical it is still quite a fun watch. So that's my final thought.
Yeah, and so influential, as you've said. I don't think we mentioned, but the X-Files, since we're going full 90s nostalgia, they did their sort of Direct Thing rip-off episode in their first season, I gather. Oh, 14 burgers. Damn.
Wow,
Damn.
That's just greedy.
Oof.
Wholesome waifu's fat.
Jesus.
How dare, and also rude. TCG, would you like to go next? Closing thoughts as
Sure.
well?
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? It's
very good.
It's very good. It's an instant classic, and it pissed off critics as well. So I mean, it has to be a 12, doesn't it? Really? No, it's a tight story. The tension is incredible. Some of the the way that the film made me react to certain scenes, in particular the old stomach during the defib. Honestly, I hadn't reacted to a horror film like that in years, and that felt quite refreshing. So, yeah, I'm with Scrump. It's going to be a 12. There's going to be a bit of cheese in there because, of course, some of the scenes were quite funny. It was just like the little one-liners, like when they're in, like when you say they're in the chairs, and they're given the all clear, and it's like, oh, and one of them's like, "Oh, I know you guys have got a lot on your plate at the moment, but will someone get? I don't want to spend the whole game winner in this chair." It's like brilliant.
Yeah.
My favourite, like, the thing that always gets me is just he's like, Mac wants the flamethrower. Mac wants the what?
Oh, it's
You
like,
gotta be kidding me.
the generator's gone. Oh, what? Is there anything we can do to fix it? No, the generator's gone. But yeah, 12. In nice, beautiful, lovely, irresistible cheese. More of the same, please. Proper horror show.
We will struggle to find films of this quality, but I endeavour to do my best. We have got some absolute beauties
Bangers
in this art.
Yes,
total bangers. I'm really glad we got you to watch this again, because you can forget about amazing films. So,
yeah, there are so many films that I've watched in the past, and I just remember absolutely nothing about them, and I actually really regret it with this one. But then at the same time, I don't, because otherwise I wouldn't. If I remembered all the stuff that happened from previous, then I would have, like I say, that just that one bit. And I'll quote the messages that I sent, just because it honestly it took me back so much. It was like, hold on, very me, bro, that defibrillator scene, amazing. I just genuinely loved it.
You basically want to show this film to. This is a film you want to show to people. You want to watch their reaction.
Here's the thing. This isn't a film that I'd want to recommend to people. And the reason why I say that is because I want it all to myself. So, no.
Yeah, I can respect that.
Maybe that's why the critics hated it so much, because they just really wanted to see it themselves. Like, keep it to themselves.
Lower the price, lower the stock. They were shorting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think journalists are that smart?
No.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, that's like a next level thing.
Yeah. No, well, of course I'm being sarcastic, because journo's scum in it.
Of course. Haryan, how about yourself?
Whoa. Should we predict?
Well,
we gotta do Haryan's first, and then we'll see how accurate I was.
Oh, of course, yeah. Of course.
Otherwise, he'll change it to spite me.
That is true. I will. Yeah, this film was very good, not without its problems though. Having said that, very tightly written, as I said before. They think it did feel like they thought about everything when it came to how you'd react to a monster. Because we didn't mention it, but there was even a suggestion of everyone should prepare their own meals and only eat out of cans.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
Because we don't know how it spreads, and I'm like, yes,
that
is what you should do. And obviously, before they get all paranoid, they are just relaxed. The dog's allowed to walk around the place, and it's like, oh, please put it away. It's annoying us now. But issues are probably a bit more, more on the nitpicky side, maybe. I mean, you don't defibrillate a dead man. It's more to stop too quick or too slow heart beats, generally with defibrillators, but they made a good scene. There's probably other things, but I can't think off the top of my head. Oh, just like grenades seem to be much bigger than they would be.
It's also worth noting that when it's also worth noting that defibrillator scene, he did try and defibrillate the man's stomach. If we're gonna nitpick, then if we're gonna nitpick,
yeah, it's like whatever.
Nitpicking on this stream.
Yeah, the dog biting open the fence. I'm still like, what? It just would have been better if he tried to dig under it, because that's what dogs do. Like it looks very trained trying to bite it open, but yeah, very inconsequential things. I was kind of thinking when I first watched it, I'm like, I have an initial number and I thought 9, but I really can't see any reason not to go higher. So I'm probably going to give this a 10 out of 12 with a bit of cheese, because there were the one-liners that I can believe people like this would actually say.
10 out of 12 with cheese.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. Very good film.
All right, then.
Very much approve.
Should we do the Should we do the prediction?
Do it. Yes.
All right. So, prediction for Haryan. There was a lot that Haryan liked, but the deliberate obfuscation in the story annoyed him a bit. He felt the alien/UFO element was not well integrated, and the tunnels under Blair's cabin were an extreme convenience. The set piece scenes absolutely worked for him, and he fully bought it. The blood test scene especially worked well. I love that scene. That was one of my favourite ones. The lack of spoon feeding in the plot and the believable casting appealed. The effects, though sometimes edited in awkwardly, worked for him, and he felt an effective and visceral disgust akin to reading David Lammy's tweets.
I don't think any horror film could be that bad.
Overall, the deliberate confusion in the story doesn't stop him enjoying it. You should have stuck with 9 because Horrorshow gave you 9 out of 12 burgers, copious ketchup.
Only being out by 1 is very good.
That's
Very good. That's a really good one.
All right. For me, well, you guys have said it really well. I think, you know, this is a film that was not appreciated the way it deserved, but by goodness, as a cult classic, it got a lot of love. It is really advancing the horror genre. In fact, I wish more films tried to learn from The Thing. There's so much that's underappreciated about it. I mean, I hadn't even thought to mention how naturalistic the dialogue is. But after Scrump said it, yeah, it's true. It's just, there's so much to love in it, and it is incredibly innovative in how it uses its premise. It really makes the most of it and challenges you and innovates, and it's an absolute classic for a reason. This is mature horror. It doesn't go for the easy scare. It goes for the unease, the disturbing, unsettling feeling, and it's an absolute winner for that for me. So the only reason it's not getting a perfect score is I don't like the fade to blacks. And I think some of the transitions to the effects are a tiny bit abrupt, which is hard to work around, but they do stand out to me on rewatches. And I wasn't a huge fan of the mini UFO plotline and the tunnels that just happened to be under the cabin. I didn't like that. Minor annoyances that I have are they're mostly focused on things that actually support the plot, like me really struggling to remember who everyone is. Actually is in perfect service of the plot, so I will not take that off. So it's an 11 out of 12 for me, probably an 11 out and a half, because basically I have minor quibbles. So yeah. Look, it's not Candyman. I can't give it a 12.
Yes, you can. Do it.
No, I've got a quibble to be consistent. All right. Oh, fantastic stuff. I see it was, well loved by the panel. Really great that it landed so well on a first watch, Haryan. I think that's brilliant. And I saw a lot of appreciation in chat as well. That was lovely to see. So we'll round things off here. Is there any shilling that you would like to do, starting with Scrump?
Trying to think. Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm trying to do a wider variety of content. Maybe some more media-related stuff in the future. I do lack time. That is just Scrump Monkey on YouTube. I'm occasionally on Twitter, although I'm on and off at the moment, trying to spend too much time on it. But that is at Starman Boomer, because a few years ago was quite famous for my multiple Twitter bans for being continuously banned from the platform. I'm trying to keep a bit more of a low profile on quite a few platforms now to avoid the 6-month cycle of continuously being banned. Because although it is fun to accrue thousands of followers and then immediately become banned, it's not particularly sustainable. So I'd rather be on for longer periods of time. Apart from
like
that,
having you around, Twitter's boring without you.
I try to spend a bit less time on Twitter, but yeah.
Some of you guys are cool. Don't go to Twitter tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. No, I don't really have a huge amount to shell. I've missed talking about movies because, as you can probably tell, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of certain films. And certain directors, so I need to be utilizing that a bit more, because right now it's just useless knowledge that I seem to never be able to get rid of.
I will be asking you what those are off stream and making notes. But okay, brilliant. Yes, and okay. Well, I can try and put a link. Well, I've got a link to your channel in the description below, so people can follow. there is great ambitious content on there. It's fantastic stuff, guys. Really worth watching. And then that crime guy. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So links, yeah, as Horrorshow said, links are in the description for all our channels. So if you wanted to pop over and see what we do, then pop over there, subscribe and all that malarkey. In terms of what I'm doing at the moment, I'm still working on my case. Like Scrump, though, I'm struggling with time at the moment. I did what I think was like a 55-hour work week last week in the end, so I was just brr. But despite that, I've managed to get my audio stuff done and the images and all that background stuff. So it's just I've got to mix the last bit of the audio down, put it all together, and I'm hoping to have a video out this week. If you remember last week, I mentioned that I was doing the Amityville Horror, and I am still doing the Amityville Horror. So definitely check the channel out, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping to have it Thursday, maybe Friday this week, but it will be this week.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, we should have mentioned the Nomos tickets.
Yes.
Nomos, I'm going to be there.
Oh yes, sorry, I'm being very lax. Sorry, I had a toothache for the past couple. I'm starting to get dentist appointments, so I'm on some quite heavy painkillers at the moment.
Bring those to Nomos too.
No, I'll be out of my end. But yeah,
pop mini drinks.
I probably shouldn't have had that whiskey. I'm on quite large codeine at the moment. So,
Were you awake?
That's why I may have been a little scattered. But yes,
okay. Nomos events, Nomos Birmingham.
Yes,
yeah,
that'll be in Birmingham.
People talk. Go ahead.
So that'll be in Birmingham on the 26th of this month. So yeah, it is this month. Crap.
Yes.
The 26th this month. Hopefully, there should be some tickets left. I think there are some tickets left. So yes, we'll be doing that. There'll be cool people there. Come see.
And if you're like hanging on the edge there, like, oh, I don't know, should I go or not? If it helps that I will be there to talk chickens, hedgehogs, and horror films on the side, then I hope that pushes you over the edge and you come to Nomos, because the last one was really good fun, and it's really nice meeting up in person.
Yes.
So, okay, and then Haryan, anything from you to show?
Yeah, I put out a video about 2 hours before the stream about the Russian sanctions and why they're overdoing them. Not a long one. Well, I say that it's still 20 minutes. But yeah, one worth watching. Laughing at the Guardian was Saturday. We had a good long chat about why Putin may be doing what he's doing. Because I just did not know anything, so I got a bit of an expert on who really knows this stuff about Russia. So, and we actually went through a good Guardian article, which I was very surprised at. Well, everyone was very surprised at. So,
goodness me,
worth looking at that as well. Yeah, I know. It's because the guy was actually the Moscow correspondent for the Guardian, so he knew what he was talking about. I've been
finding some gems recently from a few years. Like they're coming out of the woodwork. It's weird. We're in Bizarro world.
Yeah,
I don't know how to handle this.
Genuinely, Guardian's foreign correspondents, apart from America, it's not that bad, especially a few years ago. So, yeah, because obviously you've seen all the stuff about Ukraine's Neo. I was about to say N-words, but because I don't want to say the Hitler word.
So what you're saying is the Guardian foreign correspondents are the equivalent to BuzzFeed true crime pages, in that they're not that bad, although they're part of a larger, more awful organisation.
Yeah, basically.
Sweet.
So there you go. And then I'll probably make another video this week. Don't know what on yet, because I never know.
I need to go and watch it. Yeah, I'll go watch a video after this, actually.
Yeah. And I'm on Regional Variations tomorrow on Tailed Features channel.
Who was in the chat earlier? If he's still here, hello.
Yeah, unexpected tail feature. Lovely.
Well, I do shill in his Discord, so.
Very good, very good.
Everywhere.
As for me, I got some of the stuff I need for research, which is lovely. As I mentioned, I have filmed and edited the video that you guys voted for way back in December, but let's not focus on that. the one about filthy homoeroticism and dangerous sexuality in Clive Barker's work. I've recorded it. I'm editing it now and working out what imagery I can get in there and keep the video up, because it turns out it's kind of hard to talk about this stuff. But yes, that I'm not sure when that's going to drop, but it's in the works. So that's all from me. But as is customary at this point of the night, we announce the horror homework. We are doing it slightly differently. Now, remember, there's a switcheroo. We were going to do Videodrome this week, but we've had to switch it. Videodrome is now going to be next week, but it's not going to be Tuesday. We are going to be covering it on Thursday. So double switcheroo there. Videodrome on Thursday. It's very different to The Thing, but I think you guys are going to like it. Most of you, maybe, kind of.
Just to confirm, that's
change.
Just to confirm, that's the 17th.
That is the 17th.
Next Thursday, not this one.
Yes. Sorry. 17th. Okay. So how that all works out. All right. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much to all my guests. It's been a really great discussion. You brought a lot of knowledge, really interesting perspectives. Really enjoyed it. And thank you to chat for keeping it nice and lively. Much appreciated.
Bye.
All right. Going to sign off now. Thanks, y'all.
Hashtag Rock Gang.
Hashtag Show Gang.